How's it going, everyone? And welcome to a very light episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Aristil,
Nurian,
and Volatil, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, or rather, sort of like the latest news and commentary on Elden Ring, I guess, because that's basically the only thing that's happened.
I guess.
Everybody's still talking about it, and that's about it. Nobody's talking about much of anything else, which is tragic, because as good as the game might be, it would be nice if there was more than one video game. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which you can get to by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the archive of the show on YouTube.
Yeah, do it now. So, on the stream today, I've actually thrown it to Ari for the first bit, as I'm just going to be playing a little bit of Final Fantasy and trying to make my character look as good as possible for the finale, which I am finally up to.
Yep. So, this is my second Elden Ring playthrough, after the first one, after Vol picked up the game, which he'll talk about in his week. I felt I should probably start from the beginning again to refresh my brain on some stuff that happens and goes on, because I had already... It's a big game. There's a lot of stuff between when I started and where I ended. I don't remember most of the stuff at the start. So, this time I am going just full retard Unga Bunga with, right now, dual greatswords. I have one colossal colossal sword I can wield, but, I've not found another one that's equipable yet that I can wield in one hand. And so we're just going heaviest armor we can, biggest swords we could find, with, let's see, we're doing the first Lord boss after Margit at level 33 with 17 points in vigor. Yeah. So, and usual rules, no summoning, no ridiculously OP stuff, and we're gonna see how this go. And I'm gonna be doing this while we go through the weeks and see how many attempts it takes.
Get Crystarium scouting. I wonder. Do the Crystarium. So, we'll just jump straight into weeks. Honestly, there's not going to be too much of this show beyond weeks, unfortunately, because no one's been doing anything else otherwise.
Yeah, there's been people playing Elden Ring, Cope posting about Elden Ring, crying about Elden Ring.
Plenty of crying about Elden Ring.
Yeah, and a whole lot of nothing else.
Oh, so much nothing else. Oh, wait.
There was a few minor newslets that I probably could have thrown in there just to have something, but they were so minor and so outside of our usual wheelhouse that I just was like, nah.
That's right, you get the Crystarium armor in Yulmore, don't you? So that tangents nicely onto my week. I'll start with the Final Fantasy stuff, and then I'll come back to Elden Ring. While you get to watch the cutscene of Godfrey or Godric, I forget which one he is. and his way too
So-
many arms.
Too many names of NPCs start with G, R, and M in this game.
Yeah, they do.
And I wonder if that was a intentional thing by our boy Martin as his one
Doubt it, 'cause he
contribution.
barely seemed to be involved.
His one contribution was character names, and his requirement was they all be G, R, M.
No, I think that he was not involved at all. At all. I think he just sold his name to the project, and that's it. Because I can't see a trace of him in this anywhere. Which
Honestly,
I
neither
think
can
is
I.
probably for the better.
Yeah, I can't either, but it's just funny that all the characters are G, R, M. Like,
mean-
all of them.
The Godfrey line, they're all related, so at least that kind of makes sense.
I'm coming for you, my dude. Oh, you're about to cut your arm off.
Oh,
I thought
well, you got him down that quick already. Okay.
2 great swords do a lot of damage.
Incidentally, there's a shop here called Gloria's Googors, and I'm intrigued.
Oh, and if you're wondering why I didn't put the Melania kill video up on the No Excuses channel, in her second phase, she has a full frontal assault going on,
Yeah.
and while you can't see anything, and what you can see, you wish you couldn't, it skirts a little too close to community guidelines for me to risk the channel.
We do plenty of that
There must
already
be-
as it is.
There must be tons of people posting that, though.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's just it would be an easy target if somebody decided to come after us specifically for some reason.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, but yeah, best just
In
to,
case.
just in case. So,
Yep.
anywho, Final Fantasy is I pushed through all the stuff. I've done the
Oh, I got squished.
Teoscope, or however you're supposed to pronounce it, dungeon, and I did the Heidelin fight.
I have only done Artioscope once,
That
and
was-
that's sort of. I feel like it's better than that. It's better than just doing it once, but I just haven't gotten any characters in range to really farm it.
It is a
Yeah.
cool
I don't-
dungeon.
I don't even know what the gear looks like.
Yeah, it's all trinkets.
Oh, I see.
That said, I'm wearing the necklace, and it looks like I've got some sort of little mechanical device attached to my throat now, so that's something. So I'm into the homeward, downward swing of the story, and in order to
that is as you will eventually discover a totally inappropriate way of referring to the end of the story.
oh yeah, this is well. Let's if I look at it this way. The fan is already liberally coated in feces. I'm expecting the story to wind up and have at least one more good throw.
Well, it's at risk of spoiling. It's like you say it's the downward swing of the story, but the sort of visual leitmotif of the end of the story is literally climbing up.
This is true.
Like, in fact, from the point you're at onwards, you're going up.
Yeah, literally in a spaceship.
Yes.
So
we
before I do any of that, though, I need to make my character look good. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of scenes. You don't want to be dressed like you just came out of the Salvation Army.
yeah. I like
Yeah,
kind of like Sky Pirate. Like 90% of the machinist armor set I like. It's just that stupid puffy shirt. It ruins the whole thing. Do I have Sky Pirate aiming? I think I might have Sky Pirate aiming. That would do it. That would work. So there, this is the most important thing, of course. Yes, the universe is coming to the end, and yes, I need to go save it. But what's the point if I can't look good doing it?
Yeah, you need to be able to look good on the cover of the newspaper when you make it back.
Yes. So
Oh, I thought the fire resist talisman saved me.
as far as the 2 dungeons and the story beats go, like it wraps up a whole bunch of other things. I was not expecting to see a certain character make a reappearance. Getting killed twice obviously hasn't knocked any of the crazy out of that guy.
I think you don't have to be vague about spoilers anymore. It's long enough.
Yeah.
You can just explicitly say what it is.
Yeah, because I can't follow your hints at
barrier.
all.
You
Yeah.
are the spoiler barrier.
I am the spoiler barrier. All right. So yeah, you beat up the ghost of Amon / Hades, Hermes in the afterlife
Slash Fandaniel.
/ Fandaniel.
Slash what's his name?
Yeah, and then what's his name turns
Bulk
up.
Up.
Yeah, absolutely crazy guy.
I'll just have to refer to him as Bowl Cut because I can't remember his name. Asahi.
Asahi, that's it. Yeah, crazy bowl cut guy. So that was nice to kind of start to see a little bit of closure on Hermes' story, and then no, Asahi turns up and just ruins everything by being crazy.
Good old Asahi. I think the way I think Preach described it like this. Oh, I see. So he's got a hate boner for you because he's got a regular boner for Xenos.
Oh, that is bad and also completely accurate. I hate it. So, yeah. Let me see. Unfortunately, I'm just trying to find a good chest piece to maybe match up with what I've got. So I can look good. But Mog Station hasn't... Oh, not Mog Station. Eorzea Collection hasn't been updated with the Endwalker gear sets yet.
Eorzea Collection, I generally don't use because its updates seem to be unbelievably spotty. Even long after the fact, there seem to be certain patches and stuff and sets that just never seem to get added for some reason.
For reasons, yeah. Scion Rogue would actually work really well, but it's Mog Station. Why you do this, Square Enix?
Hey, that boomerangs.
It does. So
I
yeah,
jumped over his whirlwind, smacked him in the face, crumpled him, and then the whirlwind came back.
more smacking. Alright, so I'm going to see if I got Sky Pirate or Sky Rat, maybe? Anyway, while I do that, the Hydaelyn fight was a big showstopper of a fight, which you can do with the Trust.
Which
You must do with the Trust.
You must do it with the Trust the first time through, yes.
Because otherwise what you're doing not just the first time through so much as like you don't necessarily have to do it with the Trust the first time through, but if you don't, think about what you're doing to other people.
Yeah, this was the trauma where we accidentally spoiled this for you. If you do that fight legitimately, you are taking about 7 other people who all did the Trust and have no clue what the mechanics of this fight actually are into the fight with you, and none of them are going to have a clue what they're doing.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who farmed Extreme, but
yeah, there is a mechanic in there. I still have no idea how it's supposed to properly work.
There's a lot of mechanics like that in that fight.
Well, most of them I can figure out. Like Wave of Light, they just travel straight across. They're just big old doom areas and things like that. Now, the one
Wave of Light is the one I have the most trouble with because for whatever reason I have difficulty comprehending where it's moving as they sort of bloop their way across the landscape.
They do kind of.
I don't know. Visually, I can't seem to interpret it, and I just end up following everybody else.
Yeah, they don't. I'm not exactly sure where the safe spot for them is, or where their damage area is, because there's no mark on the floor. You've just got this big bloopy light wave graphic that moves across. So I just give them
bunga.
Nice. I just give them as wide a berth as possible. Now, the one that really kept getting me is when she does the targeted AoE on everyone. But for some reason, I kept getting smacked before she dropped back.
That's is that the one? Are you talking about the one where it places a marker on everybody and you've got to spread out?
Yes, the one where Urianger tries to kill you.
Yeah, Urianger actually killed me with that, and LSA very nearly killed me several times.
Yeah, Urianger definitely tried to kill me with that because you run away from him, and no, he chases you with it. jerk like that. So, yeah, but I think it's a turn away from the boss mechanic, because if you're looking at her when just after she does it, and or between the time she drops the marks and actually fires the attack, she'll smack you with her sword.
No,
I
that doesn't
don't.
sound right.
No, that doesn't sound like anything that I ever came across.
Yeah, because that's how it seemed to work for me, but I have no idea how it actually works.
Yeah, I do not know, because whenever I do a fight with the trust and I only do it with the trust, my memory of the fight of, oh, that looked really cool. The mechanics are, I followed what the trust members were doing and emulated them.
Yeah, there's a good amount of that too.
Nope, that's the wrong way. We don't want to go that way.
Apparently I've been carrying around limited gear too. I should put that into the arm.
So,
So
took about 6 attempts, by the way, for those that are on the audio.
nice. So yeah, got her down and had the big story beat after that. I am glad, going back to the previous dungeon, at least when Amon turns up, he hasn't forgotten his splendid hat.
He does have a big hat.
He has an incredible hat.
He definitely took the bard job class.
He did. He also took the crazy job class as well. But seems like all Hades... I keep saying Hades. Hermes is Emmett Selk. Hermes' job of various incarnations. Amon seems to be the least crazy?
No, he's not.
He's not.
He's absolutely lunatic. Like, they make it. I thought they made it pretty clear that he's basically the elegant. He basically ended up becoming the Elegant Empire's Dr. Mengele.
He did. Yeah. Which aside from, vanilla Hermes, it kind of says all it really says about that character is
Like, Amon is
always
basically
crazy.
an inversion of Hermes. Like, Hermes' problem was that he cared too much about his research subjects, and that really didn't carry across to Amon.
No, Amon was complete opposite there. Why can I not put this stuff into the armory? Yeah,
Hardly anything goes into the armor now.
Not the
I don't
armor,
know.
the glamour dresser.
Oh, the glamour dresser. Your glamour dresser is full.
Shouldn't be. I've still got
Every
200
glamour
slots
dress-
left.
Every glamour dresser in the world is full.
Yeah, mine's
Yeah.
got like 397, and that's because I keep 3 slots empty on purpose for inevitably when something gets in my inventory that needs to go in the glamour dresser.
Wasn't there a mention somewhere along the line that they were going to do something about the glamour dresser?
No, there hasn't.
That's
They
what
were
I
going
saw
to increase the number of glamour plates,
Oh, that was it. Okay.
which is also useful, but it doesn't solve the glamour dresser problem.
Yeah, if anything, it makes it worse.
I don't know why I don't know what it is about the code that prevents them from expanding the glamour dresser, but they need to realize that every time they release more gear, people need a bigger glamour dresser. That's just how it works.
So, like, there should be 100 slots added every expansion, at minimum.
No, they every time they patch in a new piece of gear, they should add 1 slot for every piece of gear.
There's also some wonky code with it that makes it so you can't put it in your apartment.
What,
I haven't run
you
into
can't
that.
put what in your apartment?
Your glamour dresser. You can't put a glamour dresser in your apartment. You can put every other utility in there, but not the glamour dresser.
Probably because they retrofitted the code that's used to do your personal room in a guild house for it, and the guild house always had the glamour dresser, sort of in the main guild house, I think, rather than in your room.
Right.
That would be my speculation.
Yeah, that would make sense. Like, there's
Because the apartment seemed to more or less be your personal room at your guild, your free company house, with a couple of extra things bolted on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff in this game which is kind of retrofitted or just kludged together from old code. Alright, as far as that, so that's where I'm up to at the moment. I'm about to just got my class armor set, which is a really good armor set, but it has a weird puffy shirt. It would probably look on something that's good. It'll probably look good on something that's not a Barakat. But I'm a Barakat, so yeah.
It's like what I said to you last night when you sent me the screen cap of it.
It makes it
"That
look
shit
fat."
looks fat.
Oh dear. So honestly, that's about my week for Final Fantasy. Is I'm about to hit the big old story moment, and I'll have the probably the end of the story to talk about next week. As for Elden Ring, still been poking away at that, though not as much as I would have liked to this week. It's been a very full-on week. But yeah, I've went in and I fought what was his name? Radahn, the big guy on the tiny horse.
Oh yeah.
Horse is pretty big, isn't it?
No.
I've seen
No.
pictures of this guy. No, like no, I mean like in absolute terms.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's about as big as Torrent is.
I think it's probably a bit bigger. But
He's a bit bigger. In terms of actual horses, that horse is big. But compared to the rider, it's teeny weeny. That poor horse. It looks like it's struggling the entire time too. You really got to feel sorry for the poor thing.
yeah, it's not like it's a Shetland pony or anything.
No. So
We're talking relatively here. It's a tiny horse relatively.
relatively, yes. But in terms of fights, it was a cool fight. Yes, it's a gimmick fight. But you're running around, you summon all the allies, but except aside from Blyde, they all just fall over when he looks at them. Blyde's the only one that tends to stick around.
Alexander can sometimes take a whap, and there's one of the nameless ones that can sometimes take a whap.
Yeah. Alexander, though, is designed to fall over at some point, though. He's supposed to take one really good whap, and that's about him. Though that said, you can still go and pick him up again if you really want to.
Yeah.
So I did that. That was a good fight. It took me a couple of tries, especially considering you go through the portal to his battle arena, and he immediately just nails you in the face with the bow. So
yeah,
that was rude.
Yeah, he do that.
He do that. So,
I hope your dodge timing's on point.
Yeah, you get through the portal, you dodge, then you horse.
I don't even horse then. I just practice dodging that first arrow shot because he always does 3 in a row.
No, I just practice getting on the horse really quick.
Yeah, like I could get on the horse after I dodge the first one and get close enough to him to stop him from being dumb and shooting me, or the horse would get stuck under his rain of arrows.
Yeah, when you're saying rain of arrows, rain of arrows. These are arrows the size of Greek pillars, and there's a lot of them. And
they don't stop. They go on way longer than they should.
They just keep on going.
Until you finally get close to them, and all the while, you gotta stop and summon dudes.
Yeah, thankfully, the dudes actually count when to stop him doing that. Once they get close enough, he'll also stop.
Yeah.
What I'm pulling from this is basically he's a chunky boy.
He is a chunky boy. That said, aside from maybe 1 or 2, the dudes don't really do a whole lot of damage. Like, Blyde, he'll hang in there for the duration, but he doesn't do too much damage.
Oh, that's not the point. The point is Radahn's a big, chunky boy that hits really, really hard. And they've nerfed him. He's the only boss that's gotten a nerf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he used to one-shot you with everything he did, pretty much.
That sounds incredibly...
Like, if south of 25 vigor, you were one-shot by everything he did.
Oh, that's not fun at all.
No, you see why I hated him so much. He's the only boss I genuinely hated.
Yeah. Good grief. Okay. I just found the Sky Rat harness of aiming on the auction house, and they want 200 grand for it. Yeesh. Okay. What's the other one? Sky Pirate. Right on.
Anything that appears on Eorzea Collection gets its price immediately increased. So
yeah, Sky Pirate's not as bad, but it's still a bit. Yeah, Yeah, like if you go through a Aussie collection, there's a few armor pieces that continuously appear. Like hooded fiberglass is one. I've seen a lot of those. Yeah, I could go through the list at the moment, but hooded fiberglass is really the only one that I could see right now that did it. But yeah, there's just some armor pieces that will... You're going to get fleeced. What's this one? No. Unfortunately for machinists, if you want really good machinist armor, you're not going to get it because the Gunbreakers got it. They both have very similar themes, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm not really sold on the way. I think that it's more that they wasted what was always supposed to be the Gunbreaker theme on the Machinist, because the Machinist is supposed to be like an engineer tinker type character. It's not actually supposed to be like, you know, a Western styled outlaw type character.
Yeah. But that's the look they ultimately got.
So I think that they're going to sort of like gradually try and cause those two to diverge over time.
Yeah. Like, some of the later Gunbreaker armor sets actually notably have armor on them. Like, actual metal plates and things.
Well, they are tanks.
They
need to at least look a little bit tanky.
Yeah. So, Sky Pirate's a good option. I'll put that one aside. Yeah. You can see my priorities are absolutely correct here. No, that's a Dancer armor set. Yeah, the problem is Dancers and Bards also use aiming, and those two also share a very similar vibe.
I don't think that that's necessarily true. Since
there's a lot of... Well, it's not...
Dancer is slootwear, Bard is big hats.
But they tend to both be very bright, colourful, and full of flowing lines.
But not hats.
But not necessarily
the hats. Are not shared.
And one shows...
not shared.
It's Dancer also has a lot more cleavage going on in its outfit than the Bard outfits do in general.
Yeah.
Well, that may be about the same, but the rest of the outfit is a lot lighter in raw material for the Dancer.
Yes. But yeah, there's still a lot of overlap. Whereas you got the Machinist, who is the tinker engineer type character, and there's just no matchup whatsoever there. Which means half the time I wind up looking like a clown with a gun. So, yeah, anyway. What else? For Elden Ring, coming back to that, I pushed forward into the Sunken City after I went and found Blyde stuck in a hole. Which was... Yeah, that was a thing. I think I'm supposed to fight him now, but I'm not sure where he's gone.
If he's not in the hole anymore, don't worry, he'll get out by himself.
Yeah, no, I got him out of the hole, and then he said he was going to go to Rani's, but he's not there, so he'll turn up, I assume.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll show up eventually.
It's not explained in the quest very well, but Blyde is a semi-artificial creature.
Yes.
And he has genuine loyalty to Ranni, but he has a directive from being a semi-fabricated creature that is forcing him to behave in a specific way that he really doesn't want to behave in.
Yeah, I got bits of that, and from what I understand is that conflict ultimately causes his type to go crazy.
Yes. Very crazy.
Very, very crazy. Which,
half
let's
the
face
internet
it,
seems to have loyalty to Ranni these days.
Everyone has loyalty to Ranni.
Well, she is at least a literal waifu.
Yes, she is. Although apparently there is a way you can completely tank her questline, but by finding out a key piece of information before you first meet her.
You can tank her questline in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways.
You have to really not be paying attention to do it. You have to give her the potion from the really creepy dude who turns people into puppets, try to give her that.
She's
That'll
already
take
a
her
puppet.
quest line. Yeah. Well, I guess that's double insult to injury there.
Yeah.
And then the other way to tank her quest line is after she leaves Ronnie's Rise, go attack her at any point.
Oh yeah, that's a quick way to tank any quest line, is just attack the people involved. But no,
Some of the quests can be saved by going and talking to the Turtle Pope at the Church of Owls.
Turtle Pope is the greatest. But no, I'm more referring. There's a certain boss you fight who reveals the nature of a certain conflict, and Rani's part of it.
If you get to that boss, then if it's the boss I'm thinking of, that's literally the third to last boss in the game.
Yeah. So if you haven't started a quest line by then, you're not going to start.
At that point, you're past the point of no return anyway.
Yeah.
You can't dupe most of her quests.
Yeah. So basically, you confront her with that information. She says, "Yeah, I did that. Piss off."
So after you complete the zone Crumbling Farum Azula, by the way, you are at the point of no return in the end game.
Right.
When you complete it, or when you end up there?
When you complete it. So when you beat the last boss. It's where you saw me fight Fat and Skinny together at the same time.
Right.
They're the mid-boss.
Oh, right, okay. Let's go into AOZ collection. Why do people insist on putting Rotogyne in the Lara Croft shorts?
Because realistically, people are into that.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, they are the least played race in the game, but the number of homosexuals playing that race is incredibly high.
I mean, you look at the Frostguy list though, and all of them are wearing thongs, so there's that.
I mean, before I fired him, the Rogadin I had in my my squadron was in the 2B outfit.
Got to get that.
Why would you do this?
Get that chunky backside.
Just to get the response from people. Why did you do this? That is why I did it.
I'm starting to wish they really hadn't. You decided to universalize the clothing.
Yeah. Like, it's not every armor set, but it's enough. And that includes the thongs. The thongs are all universal. Yeah, there's an alarming amount of furry bait in here, and I don't want to look at this anymore.
You're the one that always plays the fluffy characters.
Yeah, because humans are boring.
You set yourself up for this.
I guess. Make humans less boring, then.
This is a problem you have brought upon yourself.
I could just go the Space Marine look. I've got the armor for that.
According to the stats from Famitsu, fully 25% of the player base plays Mikote.
I can believe
I can
that.
believe it.
I mean, you put cat girls into any game, and people are just going to go straight to cat girls.
I mean, I don't know what you want.
I'm pretty sympathetic to this point of view.
I am as well.
Yeah.
We are each our own unique little cat girl that looks exactly like probably 3 others, but shut up, this one's mine.
I still have an autistic face, but I'm so used to having such an autistic face that I don't really want to fix it now.
But you have an angry face. My character has a sad face, or a very confused face. She's like the ditzy cheerleader face. Yours just looks angry all the time, like you're about to murder somebody.
I don't think so. I think she does look a little bit grouchier than yours, who looks like there's nothing but empty space between the ears. But yeah, I don't think she looks that angry.
Yeah. At least my cat man looks, well, he mostly looks smug most of the time.
Well, if your character had a voice, it would definitely speak Valley Girl.
This is true.
I can get behind this.
It would be new. It would be Gagriel new.
Like, totally.
Totally, mate.
Like, ahoy, matey.
There you go.
We're gonna go find some treasure and junk.
Just why? So anyway, that's been my week. It's just been faffing about largely. So next week I should hopefully have the end of the Final Fantasy XIV story, before the patch releases in a couple of weeks. But then I've got a priority, I suppose, at this point. 6.1's coming up in mid-April, and it's introducing more Hildebrand. I know what I have to do.
Yeah.
Vol, what have you been doing?
Right, so, usual stuff out of the way. The gacha continues apace. There's the new Pinecone event, which is a new event to me and not a new event to anybody else.
It's not. It's new to me too. I wasn't playing when this event ran.
But you can tell it's very old because it's sort of light on mechanics. But it's an opportunity to get some memories for Shiori, at least, who I am informed is actually really good, and I am just using her because I wanted a generic archer that will do the job, and she ranks as cute enough to do the job. So, because I don't know about effectiveness, I will go on adorableness instead. But yeah, so that'll give me some upgrades there. Although it's way less generous than the most recent couple of
Yeah,
events.
they've been getting more and more generous with them, and it looks they did add a very hard version of the boss. I asked Abo about it. Apparently, the very hard boss didn't exist before.
Right, I see.
But this was just events used to be really stingy with the shards they gave out. But now there's so many characters you need to get shards for. I guess they're okay with just throwing shards all over the place.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that sort of I can see that kind of makes sense. Because honestly, I feel like they were too just stingy with everything in general, based on what I've seen of the original form of the game.
Yeah.
It was just slow enough that you would lose people, is what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, that continues. I feel very hemmed in by player EXP at this point, because I've ground to a halt on story completion. I've ground to a halt on hard mode story stage clearing. I've ground to a halt on my ability to advance to later dungeons and to various other things. Like, I just can't make any progress now at all. And there's this one guy in our guild who spams new gear requests on cooldown, and as a result I can get no more gear out of the guild system because I don't spam it on cooldown. And so the only person who ever gives me anything is Arasteel. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, you're also up to the gear pieces where people just don't got a lot of them.
Well, he's slightly ahead of me.
Yeah.
And he's in the same bracket but slightly ahead of me. But because he's spamming it on cooldown, nobody has anything spare to give out. But yeah, it's so it's sort of, yeah, we know it's just one of those things that, first in, first served, and I'm not playing this as my main game like he apparently is. So I'm not first in, so I get nothing. But yeah, the mechanic is interesting and does serve as a good way for people to be helpful to their guildmates, offloading a bunch of stuff that they don't have as much use for. But all it takes is one person who has the time to completely whore it all up, and it doesn't really matter for everybody else anymore.
Yeah, the only thing I won't be able to help you with is the necklace he keeps asking for.
Well, I need necklaces of every kind, and I just haven't been asking for them because I know that he's got all of the people's spares already. But it doesn't matter what I ask for. Anything that I ask for, I don't get because he's asked for it all already. But yeah. So yeah, it's at a very frustrating phase where I basically can't do anything in that game anymore, because I don't have the roster to move up PvP ranks, because the only thing that matters in PvP is who you have available on your roster. There's nothing else matters, as far as I can tell.
Well,
like,
and
do you have a meta? It doesn't matter anywhere near as much as your roster. It's not even in the same ballpark. It's an order of magnitude less important. Because if you don't have a meta comp and somebody else does, you lose. Period, end. There's not you would need to be several ranks of gear and like 20 levels ahead of somebody in order for you to overcome. Like I get routinely, I'm like all my dudes are like level 70 plus. I routinely get destroyed by meta comps of level 50s.
If they have Halloween Shinobu and Samuki, whatever the one with the threads is, then you're in trouble. But other than those, well, there's a few more. If they have Pecorine with her unique equipment, she's going to stonewall you. There's a few characters that are just really, really strong in PvP right now.
No, the reality is I don't have any of the components required for a meta comp. It's as simple as that. Like I've got Ilya and that's it. I can't build any Ilya teams because I don't have anything else required to do them. So she's effectively a coin flip. Like, did the opponent screw up and didn't get enough TP batteries on time onto whoever's their Nuka? If so, then Ilya will go off and I'll win. But most of the time, I'll just lose outright. There's not really any two ways about it. There's no fine strategy. It's just a matter of I need to find an opponent who has goofed in their team setup.
But yeah. What rank are you in the PvP thing?
Like anywhere between 1,000 and 700, depending on how bad the teams are that have popped. It hasn't changed in weeks because I can't reliably beat anybody. I just don't have the roster for it.
Yeah, that's where I got stuck for a while. I got stuck again in the around 500, and then after I broke that, I was pretty close to level cap, and I started to get things rolling.
Yeah, and it does frustrate me that it's about roster. This is sort of the reason why I'm glad that FGO never implemented any kind of player versus player interaction, because like most gacha games, the only thing that really matters in the end is roster. If you happen to have a meta comp, you will want the opponent. Period. End. There is to it.
The saving grace of Pinecone PvP, at least on high-end Pinecone PvP, is I don't notice my rank dropping very much, if at all, during the weeks, because people just don't do it aside from their daily PvP, and they don't care if they win or lose. For most people, it seems.
Yeah, well, that's the position that I'm in, because I can't beat people. Like I lose 99% of the battles that I engage in. I lose, and I lose quickly. So
I can stay reliably stuck at rank 120, and as long as I occasionally win one, I can stay at that rating and keep getting the gem income for being that high.
Yeah, so it's frustrating, but it would be a lot less frustrating if I was able to advance anything else, and I'm not.
Yeah, it's level's just going to be what's going to block you for a while. Level and access to gear, because you got a really powerful roster. This lets you get to things that are above your way above your level sooner, but it also means you've hit a brick wall that's going to take a little longer to chip down because
it was useful at the start because the roster that I got was just powerful enough to let me power my way up to rank 1,000 roughly, within like the first 2 weeks of me starting the game, which gave me a huge amount of early dual income that allowed me to spark Noemi. Mm-hmm. But since then, it's been a dead letter. Like I'm not doing anything. I'm not making any progress. But if I was able to at least make incremental progress, that would be one thing. But I really can't because level is too important.
Yeah, because of crit chance.
Yeah,
I have no idea why they tied crit. Well, I know why they tied crit chance to it. It's to make you have to level to beat stuff, but
yeah, but so basically, I can't advance through the story stages, and there's not enough. Like there's lots and lots of equipment that I could get for my various units, but it's sort of not really. There's not really a good opportunity to do so except for those very short spans of time, those like 4-day spans where you can effectively farm gear. And outside of those, then I know they rotate constantly, so eventually you're going to get back there. It's not like it's a once in a blue moon thing, which is good. But it's sort of frustrating attempting to farm anything outside of that because I feel like a lot of things in the game are too stingy. Like as they keep increasing. I don't think, for instance, that there was any it was any reason that they should go from 20 units to create 20 units of drops to create a piece of equipment up to 30 within the same bracket. Like that's just going to slow people down at a time where, because I feel like the place that I currently am at around level 70-ish is the place where you're going to lose a lot of people because they hit a wall in progress where they can't keep advancing. And the reason for that is they go from 20 to 30 on the amount of drops you need to upgrade something.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think that's completely unreasonable because you aren't even going up a tier. It's within the same tier.
Yeah,
It's
they
like-
get...
Like,
Yeah.
how many do you need for a purple one anyway?
They're spastic. They need some of them need like 20. Some of them need like 35.
Right. But
But-
the thing is, that gold spans from 20 to 30 so far, except that those two things sort of coexist, and you don't have any good way of getting lots of it. So you end up stuck in a gear hole at the same time you're stuck in the level hole, the PvP progress hole, and the unlock hole, because everything that you can unlock, like the next Sanctum Survey, the next dungeon, everything is just slightly ahead of that hole that you end up falling in.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just have got this sort of perfect storm of everything is going to slow down at this point. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people just drop out of the game at this point in their progress because you just can't do anything. That's what it feels like most of the time.
Yeah, you're in the worst part of the progression. It gets better once you hit the next breakpoint, because the breakpoint that comes after that breakpoint comes much faster, or it seemed to anyway. Although that may just be my imagination because they introduced double EXP for events at that point.
Yeah,
And,
well, it's been 1.5 for me so far. I
Yeah,
haven't
whatever.
seen double events, but this event doesn't have any EXP boost,
Yeah, apparently
Which is
reruns don't have it.
which just slows me down even more because I've got to devote all of my stamina to this now, except this doesn't have the bonus EXP to make it worthwhile. So yeah, I don't understand the purpose of being really stingy in a game where all of the actual competitive play takes place at max level. It's not
Yeah.
like this. This is not like to put it like this, in World of Warcraft, classic World of Warcraft, it made sense for the level up process to be a journey because you were exploring a world. You're not exploring a world in a gacha game. This is just, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any practical sense at all. Because you're just you're increasing the sort of resistance to push forward, and if to keep people invested enough to want to spend money and time on your game, you need to not make the game feel like they're being hated by it. It's not like in a gacha game you can progress through skill most of the time. So you need to make sure that people have sort of a gliding path where they can constantly make incremental progress. As far as Pinecone is concerned, that's supposed to be gear, but they've made gear really onerous and put in tons of distractions from farming.
Yeah.
I've noticed even over the course of the events that I've played, because all of the I've done 3 events now, right? They've done the detective one, the crossover one with Manaria Friends, and the current rerun one. Even over that course of time, the amount of gear drops has increased. They clearly are trying to become more generous over time, but it's very undirected when it comes to events. You don't have the same degree of control over what you get because you basically just get random crap. And I don't, there's a lot of things in it that are just stingy for reasons I don't understand. Why is the free gacha so stingy? Why does it insist on giving you things that are virtually useless 99% of the time?
I got an invisible dress fragment from it today. I was so happy. I was like, it's not useless. Once in a blue moon, it can give you a single fragment of a piece of gear that's actually useful.
Yeah, like as far as I can tell, everybody just holds out for the hope they'll get a memory fragment.
Yeah, that too.
Like that's pretty much it. Because it doesn't give you anything else useful. And it doesn't really seem like there's a reason for it. It's not even on the same drop table as the lottery boxes, and I don't see why it couldn't be. Because the lottery box is also on a crappy drop table that gives you mostly garbage. But also has a chance to give you stuff that is currently useful. And I don't see why the free gacha couldn't do that as well. It's not like the friend point gacha in FGO. The friend point gacha in FGO, you can farm it if you want, if you really want. Because you can just get a lottery event and then just continually spam it until you've got friend points out the wazoo. That's why I have well over 4 million that I'm never going to spend. But you can farm that free gacha, so it's important they control the quality of what you can get out of it. That's not the case in Pinecone. In Pinecone, you can't use the friend gacha, well, it's not a friend gacha, you can't use the free gacha more than twice a day, ever. And I usually miss the first one because I'm sleepy when it comes up. Because when I wake up in the morning before work, it's going to expire in like 1, maybe 2 hours, typically.
Yeah.
And I'll miss a pull for the day. So yeah, this doesn't seem like it's meaningful for them to control that type of thing. Anyway, at any rate, there's a lot of fine-grained silly things about Pinecone, but since it's low effort, I'm still participating in it. But frankly, it's the fact that it's low effort is the only thing that keeps me there, because it's sort of annoying in like 1,000 little ways. Not to mention it's run by Crunchyroll, who do dumb things like putting the maintenance period halfway through the first day of an event.
Yeah, that was really stupid. And you basically had 3 hours, because the event started late in the day too, because all events start late in the day for some reason. And in addition to it starting late, so you had like 3 hours to get it done, the maintenance happened, and then you had 3 hours after maintenance before the day rolled over on a short event because it's a rerun. So it only lasts 8 days or something? 7 or 8 days?
A very, very strange way of doing things. The other thing is, the reruns don't seem to be... The reruns being shorter doesn't make sense in Pinecone. It makes sense in FGO, because in FGO they buff all the drop rates of the everything.
Yeah, but all
For
events in
reruns.
Pinecone are
But
just bucks.
Yeah, if they're just lottery events in Pinecone, then it doesn't make sense to shorten them, because it just means that, oh well, the people who missed it the first time around will get way less benefit from it than the people who did it originally. It's not like in FGO where, oh well, you clear the shop, you're done. It doesn't really matter how short the event is or how long the event is. Once you clear the shop is clear. Event duration matters mainly for lottery events if you're actively playing the game. But in Pinecone, it's like, well, you're supposed to farm up lottery boxes and you need to get a certain number of resets in order to get benefit out of the event. But that's dependent on farming, meaning that if they want to get that, then they have to put all their stamina towards dredging for additional boss attempts, because they're low level. They're not going to be able to fight the highest boss. So you end up in this position where you're actually slowing them down pretty significantly in their progress. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of bloody-minded, twisted things about the way it's set up, which just seem to be products of a lack of thought. Much like
This is also the very first. This is also the very first rerun. So I don't know if they do more to fix it going forward.
Well, Crunchyroll runs a whole bunch of whatchamacallit, gacha games, and they have a certain amount of control over it if it's anything like FGO.
They have much less with Cygames, because Cygames shoot them out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they have developed that reputation with Cygames that yeah, they're going to clown up the management of the gacha if somebody doesn't breathe down their neck constantly.
Yeah, the word on the street is that Cygames shoot them out pretty good if they were going to localize Pinecone. And said you're going to follow exactly what JP did, and that's that.
Yeah. At any rate, so FGO's new chapter dropped, but I haven't finished the previous one. I'm still working my way through Atlantis a bit at a time. It's on dramatically decreased AP cost to progress at the moment, and I've sort of been making my way through because I've got a very well-developed roster, generally speaking, in FGO. Maybe not as well-developed as Ari's, despite the fact that he plays a fraction of the time that I do, but we can't all have Ari's luck. I've got a well-developed roster, so a lot of things have been relatively smooth for me, although my luck has still bitten me in the backside repeatedly. Like, There was a mini boss last night that I did. I should have been able to walk all over it, but for like 6 turns running, only the ideally incorrect command cards appeared to prevent me from actually using anything during buff durations. So it was very frustrating, and I very nearly wiped on it. And the only reason I didn't was because I had a last man standing situation with my level 100 Martha, who can basically punch anything to death given a couple turns. So I managed to get out of it, but still a lot closer than I would like. But yeah, the story in Atlantis is a bit. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of deep lore in that, but it's not quite as compelling as a lot of earlier stories. It's not as focused and intense. It's just a scenario where your team is basically on the back foot the entire time, and you're constantly sort of kiting the opponent, in a sense, narratively speaking. We are just trying to stay just barely out of range of them the entire time, because you can't get away from them, but they don't have a compelling reason to deliberately chase you down with full force because of, whatever reason, resources or whatever. But it doesn't have quite the hooks, I don't feel. Unless you're really, really a fan of the characters involved, it doesn't really have the hooks of some of the other stuff. I think that the story is just not tightly written enough. There's too much sprawl. And it's not even filler battles. There are still a lot of filler battles, but it's nowhere near the way it used to be. But the story just doesn't... It's not tightly focused enough on particular things. The cast is kind of sprawling, bigger than it needs to be, and the events are all a little bit repetitive in the sense that it's always a case of, oh, well, and you finally seemed to get your footing, and then some bad thing happened and everything fell apart again. And this keeps happening. The saving grace, surprisingly, is Jason.
I see.
Just saying something.
He is just an incredible character in a lot of ways. And not because he's well written necessarily, although he is quite well written. He's a very interesting character, or an archetype that you don't really see very much, which makes him interesting. He's just basically not very straightforward. The Jason that you meet in Okeanos is still in there. He is still the same character, but when you spend more time with him, you get a better sense of a more sort of fleshed out impression of who he is. And he is a humongous... I'm trying to think of a word that I can use that won't be censored, because I was going to head straight for the C word, but...
Douche canoe.
Douche canoe works. Let's go with that.
He's definitely a huge douche canoe. The thing is that that's not really all there is to him, and he also doesn't secretly have a heart of gold, which is good.
No,
because
he has
I'm
a heart
sick
of
of
douche.
it. Yeah, he's a douche canoe, and he has a heart of douche, but he's sort of like... he's just kind of savvy. Like, he's been everywhere in ancient Greece. Like, he travelled everywhere on the Argo. He had the greatest heroes in Greece were on his boat. And
we'll ignore the fact that he got lost in the Mediterranean.
And he was their captain, and he managed to keep them in line. Like, they may all have been stronger than him, more powerful than him, and in various ways of their own more important than him. But he was still their captain, and they still followed what he said. And there's a reason for that. And it's because he's good at captaining. He's just good at it. He's not, an unnatural tactical genius like Odysseus. And he's not a powerhouse like Heracles. And he's not like a prodigy like Atlante. But he's very, very good at using the resources he has to hand and generally captaining. He can come up with a plan in a pinch, and he can execute that plan, and he knows how to have like a gajillion fallbacks because he's unbelievably pessimistic at heart and expects everything's going to go wrong. And so he sets up piles and piles of contingencies, many of which will fail, a lot of which will fail to even go off. But because he doesn't go in expecting anything from anyone, eventually he usually manages to pull out a win. And he's a huge dork about it, and a huge douche about it. He spends most of his time looking for an opportunity to take a nap, and to get other people to do his work for him. But he can fight more or lessly. Not very well, but he can fight. And he can modify a plan on the fly to deal with changing circumstances. So he's basically a jack of all trades leaning on the tactical side, because he's not a tactical genius, he's not a strategist or a tactician, but he's a very skilled captain. And at the captaining level of things, he's very good at what he does as a character. And he also is fun to watch because he's unashamedly a dick to everybody. He doesn't try and cozy up to anybody. The only person in the world he seems to respect is Heracles. And the only time he sort of like gets serious about fighting for real personally, because he's not a very good fighter, is if somebody insults Heracles to his face. Because the only person who respects Heracles as much as Jason does is Iliasville, as far as I can tell. And so I've sent a lot of the stuff that he says over the course of the story to Fern, because so much of it is just outrageous. Like he will say outrageous things on a whim.
And he's absolutely shameless. Like, he will straight up tell someone that, to their face, that, yeah, he's just fobbing some work off on this person, and, you know, you deal with it, that's your problem now.
Yeah, and Mandricado's response in that scenario is pretty much what you expect.
What?
Like, because he hasn't worked with Jason before, so he's just a bit unprepared, because everybody knows Jason as a hero from history. They don't know him as a total douche canoe. The thing is that this Jason is the one that you met in Okeanos, because occasionally a servant will get resummoned with their memories from a previous incarnation. So a lot of the ones you meet haven't been. Like, this Achilles doesn't remember you. This Orion doesn't remember you. Chiome does remember you. And Jason remembers you. Drake doesn't remember you. It's pretty much a random roll of the dice whether or not a servant will be that version of the servant that you have met in the past. But this Jason remembers you sailing through the middle of his plans and wrecking his crew just because you could, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
he's not especially thrilled to be working with you.
You didn't exactly go out of your way to ruin his plans. It just kind of happened.
His plans were just in the way.
Yes.
But it goes to his character as well, that he doesn't like you. You're an annoyance to him, but he still warms up to you, and he will be a good captain for you, and he works on your side with all due sincerity because that's what he needs to do. Like, he is self-serving, but he's not self-serving all the way to the core. If he's got something that needs to be done, because he's been summoned by the world in order to save the world from the Lost Belt phenomenon, from the pruning phenomenon. But yeah, he's still a jackass about it, but he still does the job with sincerity. And yeah, so he's been a real saving grace for what otherwise would be a really dull story. Also, Mandricado's sort of good, but he's like, Mandricado is basically, I think he's sort of like a player surrogate in a sense, and that he's just a mopey down, a sort of a person with low self-esteem, and he got to be a hero simply because he was remembered from being an antagonist in Charlemagne's story, and the only thing he ever did was embarrass himself throughout most of his career as an adventurer. Like, he just fails a lot, and when he manages to accomplish something, it's never all it cracked up to be, and so on. Things just generally don't go very well for Mandricado, legendarily, and so he's just got a sort of a downer personality and a sort of low opinion of his abilities and that. But he basically, the only thing that he really wants is to be a good knight and to make a friend. Like a legit friend who he can talk to like an equal, and who will put up with him when he's being a mopey person.
Yep.
because he didn't really have that in life because he was such a screw up. But and he does that basically, and he has difficulty opening up to anybody, but he does that. And so there's somebody on the cast to talk to you as the master character, because you aren't really in control of your actions as the player. The story is being told about a self-insert protagonist who does things, and those things might not necessarily be things you agree with, but you're just generally a generic protagonist sort of guy from the writing point of view. And Mandricato sort of has a voice of basically for the people who are sick of MASH, because
Yeah.
MASH is just unrelentingly positive about every decision that the player character makes, because was sort of her thing. And in the early phase of the story, where the master has no reason to have any confidence, that makes sense. But now the master is sort of like well into the groove of being the master. When he starts to go off reservation and be a bit too aggressive or a bit too reckless or whatever, there's actually a person who views him as a friend to talk him down and say, look, you need to stop like randomly angsting over all this crap that you can't control. Whereas MASH would just angst right alongside you.
Yeah, she's
so there'd be
an
no-
angst enabler.
Yeah. So Mandricato's presence in the story sort of stops player point of view character from getting stuck in a generic protagonist rut, and so you can move on to another generic protagonist thing that you do. Whereas like because you suffer various setbacks and various losses. You suffer a lot of setbacks in the Atlantis Lost Spell. It's non-stop setbacks from start to finish. But Mandricato's sort of there to sort of try and cheer you up, which is something he hates doing because he's not a cheery person. He's a mopey downer of a person. But yeah, so the individual character writing of a couple of the characters is quite good. Corday did not grow on me. I know there are lots of people who really liked Corday. I don't really like her at all. I don't actually strongly dislike her either. I just don't have any strong feelings about her.
She's just
Which
kind
is
of
sort of
there.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's better or worse than me disliking her. She's clearly a focal point in the story, but she's a focal point in the story to the extent of being almost a MacGuffin. So yeah, like she's more of a story mechanic in some ways. Her sort of personal struggles and that they're told. The story relates those things, but I just don't really care. I suppose it's because like she approaches the master from an explicitly waifu angle, though her motivations for that are sort of a bit foggy, both to her and to the player. But for most of the story, it carefully avoids leaning into any one female character especially, being too waifu, because everybody playing it has their own idea about waifu. So making a story character lean really hard into that wouldn't make any sense from a profit point of view, if nothing else. But because Corday is structured like that, number one, that means she's definitely going to die by the end of the story, because you can't have excess waifus just sort of floating around.
No.
And number two, it means that it's sort of, you feel a little bit incredulous, because it's like, oh, well, every female character approaches the main character from an affectionate point of view. Why is this one supposed to be different? Why is it assumed that we will treat her as different when she hasn't really earned it?
Because she died.
So, yeah, I'm sure she's going to die. Like, all servants are already dead, so it's them dying again when they can only be resummoned later. It's not really a big deal for a lot of them. But yeah, I don't really buy into her story. People who have an affection for her, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in here that'll hit really well, but for me it's like, I'll probably be a little bit moved when she makes a heroic sacrifice in the end, but the fact that it's transparent that it's coming and that she's clearly just been designed for that purpose sort of means that it doesn't have that much impact. But yeah, I haven't finished yet. I'm at sort of like chapter 23 out of 27 for the first half, and I haven't started the second half, obviously. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Second half has a reputation for being unfairly difficult, so I'm not really looking forward to it, because the gameplay in FGO is certainly not the strong point. But yeah. Anyway, the third lobe of my time wasting has been playing Elden Ring. Like I mentioned last week, I'm living by myself now, and bits and pieces of free time are starting to emerge from the woodwork as a result, because I'm not waiting for other people all the time for everything. So I was able to play a little bit of Elden Ring. So after the show, because I'd been barraged from multiple sides, not just what you heard on the show, or not just from Fern and Ari, but from other people I know as well, several other people. Well, I wouldn't really call it caving, because I wasn't opposed to it in the beginning. I was only reluctant to because I thought I had no free time. But that was a misapprehension based on my previous living conditions.
Yep.
And so I found I did have free time, so you know what, I'll take a punt on it. I still don't have much free time, but I can actually, profitably play a game, any game, some game. So I decided to take a poke at Elden Ring. I'm not going to say that I dislike it, because I don't dislike it. There's a lot of things about it that I enjoy, but I'm sort of running face first into the brick wall that is the jank in the FromSoft way of doing mechanics.
Yep.
And there's a lot of jank.
A lot of jank.
The two things that stand out to me as very difficult to get used to are, firstly, the auto-targeting system is a complete bastard to try and use in any situation where there's more than one, maybe two targets. Because you have to control what's being auto-targeted using the stick you use to control the sodding camera.
Yes.
So if you want to make any slight adjustment to the way the camera is pointing, and having the camera pointed the correct direction in an action game is of life and death importance, well, the camera's just not going to obey you, not just like that. It's just going to shift your target to the next thing around.
Yeah,
So
learn to fight with the camera, or learn to fight with the targeting system is about 25% of the battle in FromSoft games.
It is the first, last, and forever boss.
Yeah, in virtually every action game, you have to contend with the camera, but the camera, I feel, is actively bullying me anytime I'm in a boss fight with ads.
Oh yeah, there have been times where the camera has actively killed me.
But yeah, so that was the first thing. The other thing, which is a FromSoft traditional element that I'm having difficulty wrestling with, is action queuing, because everything gets in-queued and will go off whether you like it or not. Which means that if you flub a dodge roll, it will get in-queued and will go off after you get hurt. And the next roll, it may save your life, but more often than not, it will just get you killed. So the game puts a premium on pressing every button exactly the number of times that you need to, at the exact time that you need to, no more, no less, no sooner, no later. And the moment you deviate from perfect play, you attract a whole bunch of additional errors that weren't errors that you actually made, but errors that the game mechanics make you make.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the FromSoft games aren't just about fighting the boss; they're about fighting the game engine. So I can understand
that they do that specifically to punish people for mashing.
Yeah, it has never been as bad as an Elden Ring with the queuing, I've noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that queuing existed in Bloodborne, but it was not like this.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like I was controlling my character from remote control a lot of the time.
Yeah, it didn't feel nearly this bad.
Like, in Elden Ring, you've got to practice deliberate inputs more so than other. Like, it'll get you killed in Dark Souls 3 if you are using the heavier weapons, or like I use the dagger greatsword combo that comes with the Abyss Watchers for most of my first playthrough. Like, not doing deliberate inputs with weapons like that will just outright kill you in Dark Souls 3, like they will in Elden Ring. But even Dark Souls 3, the queuing wasn't this bad.
Yeah, so the game doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel very mechanically tight. Like when I play an action game, well, my go-to is actually when I play a third-person action game, I'm expecting the level of tightness of Bayonetta. That's my touchstone typically. And FromSoft games are not like that. They require the same level of proficiency, but the your actual interaction with the mechanics feels weirdly squishy. Like, it feels very malleable, and what you get out isn't necessarily what you thought you were putting in. So you are very much dueling with the game mechanics rather than just with the boss, and that can be excessively frustrating because there will be a lot of situations where you don't feel like you're guilty of the mistake that killed you. It
Yep.
feels more like the game engine did it to you. But because like your instinct is that when you are in circumstance X and you press a button which you think is going to either get you out of circumstance X or capitalize on circumstance X as appropriate, and it doesn't quite go the way you want, and you get punished because you didn't quite do it accurately. But then you get punished again and again and again because the button that you pressed and didn't go off the way you wanted will then go off later and will do things to you by causing you to act at times that you didn't intend to or want to act after the fact, after you feel you've already been punished once. And that's not a great feeling, and I think that's probably what drives people away from the combat system.
Yeah, as you get used to it and as you practice and get this, the swing of how the controls actually work, it fades, but I'm not going to say it goes away completely because it never does.
Yeah, the thing is that I don't. The thing that I like the least about the game is the sensation like I'm working around the game engine rather than playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always like, oh yes, well I want to do that, but if I do that, then the game is going to punish me if I do it wrong. So maybe I should just not do it. That you don't want that. You don't want that. I don't think that's a very good move. Like I think that the game is full of questionable design decisions that work for a lot of people, but really don't work for a lot of other people. And I guess that this is like the ultimate source of Ari's theory that the game, once you play it enough, it will either click with you or it just won't click with you. Because you need to be willing to cooperate with a game that really shows no interest in cooperating with you.
Yeah,
it's going to do what it wants, regardless of what you want.
Yeah, it eventually, after quite a while, will get to a point where take my shoes. No, I don't want to take my shoes off. Get the gloves off. It will eventually get to a point where it's mostly second nature, and you just kind of know how to deal with it. And it just
You've got to push shoot through some rough times first.
But yeah, it does take a while. It took me a whole run of until the end of the original Dark Souls. I didn't really get a handle on it.
And that's the other thing about it, is that the game feels like a very bizarre hybrid of being accessible and being inaccessible, because it feels like it has leaned very hard into certain things that you are just not prepared for if you are not already a Souls player. And yet it's also in other ways very accessible to people who have no Souls background, which is a very bizarre combination. And by that I mean things like the combat mechanics being janky and queue-based, whereas like the normal approach of something like a Devil May Cry is to give the highest fidelity response to whatever the player does. To put the player directly in control with every little tiny thing that they do, and never do anything if the player is not actively doing it. Whereas the FromSoft approach is complete opposite, where they will take all of the instructions the player does and then play them out how they want. Yeah, if you don't know that ahead of time, it's very hard to acclimate to it.
Yeah, the thing with FromSoft games is they are the opposite of things like Devil May Cry and your Bayonettas, in that there is very little to no action canceling. It is very difficult to find abilities that will cancel an action canceling.
They're actively doing the opposite of action canceling, which is queuing up everything and then setting them off in like programming orders, like an old school basic program. Like you have index the lines with 10, 20, 30, 40, and always executes them in order.
So there is no, I don't want to do that, or I should stop mashing. There is in Elden Ring, the thing with Elden Ring's combat that kept getting me early was the extended window on the frame, because I would mash into something and stop mashing when I realized I made a mistake. But you can't do that now. The entire second half of most animations, it seems like, it will queue up the next action if you push the button.
Yeah. So It is quite a challenge to acclimatize to this bizarre new environment.
But it does feel natural after a while. It does have the potential to have that click with you, and you're just like, oh, okay, I get it now.
I think the thing that drives in the opposite direction that makes it accessible is that if something is just not working out for you, you can just go and do something else for a while, which is something
Yeah.
you really can't do in other Souls games. There's
Yeah.
not something else you can do for a while. You have to drive forward, 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 always forward. There's only forward. If you go the other way, you get whomped.
There are branching paths where you can try a different area, but it will be likely above or at the same level you're at, so you're still running into the same type of wall. There isn't a giant, expansive world of stuff behind you that you haven't explored yet that you can just go turn around and go do and then come back to whatever wall you're at later.
Like, unlike Ari, I'm not concerned about overleveling anything. I just don't care about that type of thing. So I've taken a few punts at Margit, who is clearly going to be very difficult for me since it requires you to. It's basically Margit is your first acid test of can you do Souls combat mechanics? Can you cope with the way you're supposed to interact with boss attacks? Can you cope with the way your actions are going to be aggressively in-queued? And that sort of thing, like that stuff is all going to be put to the test in that fight. So I've taken a few punts at him, and they have not been very successful. I've gone down to about half health at best, but I have not done any focused attempts on him because I can just, if things don't seem to be going well and it's putting me in a rough mood because of it, I can just go and do some other stuff, go for a bit of a wander, because it seems that you can basically go anywhere. There's not very many places you can't just wander into, for better or for worse.
From the start of the game, the entire game is open to you, except for the stuff at the capital onwards. That's about when you're working into the last third of the game. But the entire first 2/3 of the game, you can go anywhere and do whatever you want.
Pick a direction,
And even
off you go.
And even then, the only lock is you have to beat 2 Lord bosses, and that last third will open up.
Yeah, so I haven't done very much yet, and I'm thinking that in practical terms, I'm probably just going to use a map. I know that that's cheating to most people because you're supposed to explore, but I wasted like 2 of my evening free times basically walking in circles because I can't navigate to save myself.
No, I've seen you with a map. You're fine.
There's no map to Sunken Temple. I think there is now, but there wasn't back then.
No, you should use a map.
Yeah, because I can't find anything because I'll just be searching the same paddock of grass for an hour, not realizing it's the same one that I was searching at the top of the hour.
I don't think there's any shame in using a map for this game, honestly.
It is so big. There are plenty of reasons I can see people using a map.
Yeah,
I do think if you're in it for the exploration, you're gypping yourself a little bit. But if you're not in there for that big exploratory, ooh, what's that cool thing over there? I want to go see what that island is. And you're in it for the other stuff, then using a map's fine.
Honestly, I just the way I felt about this game when I started playing it was that this is just Skyrim except things can actually kill me, which is the thing that I think Skyrim was lacking the most.
Yes,
that is to say any kind of actual challenge, because while you can make enemies in Skyrim incredibly dangerous, the only tactic that you can use to fight in Skyrim is to basically get things stuck on terrain and then kill them. That's the way that you fight tough enemies in Skyrim, is that you exploit the dumb AI and you kite them around and around while you kill them. There's no interesting combat. There's this, this thing can kill me in one hit if I let it hit me, so I just have to not let it hit me. But since the attack patterns and AI and pathing are so simplistic in Skyrim, there's no real challenge to be had other than, you've got to do this thing perfect for an extended period of time because it has a long health bar. And that's not really what I'm down for as far as combat's concerned. So Skyrim was always about, derping about the world. It wasn't about fighting anything. There's nothing worth fighting in Skyrim. Maybe there are people who have put together really advanced mods that have really good combat against really well-designed enemies, but the base game doesn't contain any really well-designed enemies, not even one. So, yeah. So I've approached the game more or less like Skyrim, only with actual danger in the world, which seems to be serviceable, but it does need a map. I'm not that concerned about spoiling myself on exploration because I know for a fact that 99.9% of the world I will never find anything if I don't use a map because I'll stick to the roads. I'll mostly stick to the roads because the roads, at least with a road, you know there's a forward and a back, so you can find the way to the forward or the back. It's possible to do so.
A big part of the game, really, there's the finding that you're going to be doing, but once you've found the thing, you've got to fight the thing, and the fighting the thing is the thing you're there to do.
And it's not even just the fighting the thing. Like, I'm happy not using a map for the inside of a dungeon, but I need to know the dungeon is there to have fun exploring it.
Mm-hmm.
If I never find the dungeon, then I just didn't get to have the fun. That's the way it looks from where I stand. Yeah. So yeah, the final thing that I'll comment on in terms of like being a total novice to this is I've decided for the time being at least that I'm more or less going to adopt Ari's principle of not using summons period end. And the reason for that is a purely emotional one, that every time I look for any like useful information or help or whatever online, I get a whole bunch of comments saying that it's super easy, just use the summons. And that just makes me very angry and upset because if I have difficulty with something and then I kill the boss, the messages on the ground all say like praise the summon or like did not expect weak foe. And that ticks me off. So sod all you guys, I'm just not going to use the damn things.
Yeah.
Like I might later on pick one to make my pet and just rank that one up and use it as basically like a lackey. Maybe later, but like I don't know, like a super leveled up jellyfish or whatever. But yeah, I for the time being I don't really want to focus on use of summons in any capacity because it's just annoying and frustrating to think
I really do think you gyp yourself by using the summons in this game. If you're new and you're just really hitting a wall, sure, use the summons. Nobody's saying you can't, but what I am saying is you're making your own experience worse. Yes, he did. Because you don't have to sit down and do the fun part of a Souls game, which is learning the bosses, if you use the summon, because you can ignore half of his tells.
Yeah, so don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, like I experienced that in miniature by doing the that first quest with Blade, where he comes to help you because he's looking for that guy to kill, and I reckon I could have fought that guy by myself and killed him in a few attempts. He doesn't have very much health. He's just extremely fast. But actually having the NPC there completely trivialized it. It didn't feel like a boss fight anymore. Oh, yeah. Because I just had to wait until he was focused on Blade and then wail on him. That was all that needed to be done.
He just goes ham on that guy.
I was fine with that because it's an NPC, not a summon. Like, it was a fight that, for story reasons, was designed to be done that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's designed to be done that way, at least as an option, a story option. But, yeah, I can sort of see that basically undermining the sense of scale of a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, I think that I will abstain from that practice, at least now. Maybe there will be some point in the future where I'll just get so frustrated that I'll start using them because I'm just not very adept to this type of game. But for the time being, I'm not intending to use them because yeah, it just seems like you're taking out of the game content by doing that.
Yeah, you're just trivializing the boss fights to a point with most summons. If the summon you use can stay alive for any appreciable amount of time, then you're just effectively removing all the boss fight content from the game because you're not getting the full experience.
Yeah, I don't see how you can actually derive much sense of satisfaction from that because you weren't fighting the part that was designed by the game designer. Like you just didn't do it. You didn't do that part. That part of the game sort of didn't exist for you.
Yeah, but you get the social media cloud of saying I beat a FromSoft game. Never mind, I used Mimic Tier and Hoarfrost Stomp and cheesed my whole way through and never had to do anything but hit 2 buttons.
Yeah, you cheater.
It really does, and the coat posting online makes me so mad when I see it. because these people wouldn't be coat posting if they didn't understand on some level that what they did wasn't an accomplishment.
Yeah, because if they're mad about one thing that got nerfed, or two things, or three things, or however many things was appropriate to their particular broken strategy, if they're really that mad about that, that means that they know that their success just hinged on that one thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that they didn't overcome the challenge as in they found a way to overcome it. They just picked the most powerful thing and did that.
yeah, they
Cheese
used
your way through it.
meta knowledge to an absurd degree and just busted your way through the game. Not to mention using summons themselves, which mean, you don't actually have to learn the boss. And this drives me nuts that people are like, oh, the Miyazaki said summons are supposed to be used. Yeah, but did you learn the boss? Did you sit there and actually get to know the boss's tells and everything it does? Create methods of avoiding its attacks? By just playing with your kit? Changing up your kit a little bit? Trying a new weapon art? Having to learn an actual new strategy on the flyers? No, you missed out on all that. That whole experience is gone when the summon can take aggro.
Yep.
So, while I will not say, no, you can't use a summon, I'm not that elitist about it, know that you're not playing the same video game I am.
Yeah, so I don't want to hear from anybody who used summons to beat bosses. I don't want them talking about how easy the boss was and that, because yes, you did use mechanics that are built into the game, but you didn't interact with the boss's mechanics. The boss might as well not have been there. He was just a sack of hit points as far as you were concerned.
Yeah, he was just a loot pinata. That's all he was. Like, oh, I still had to dodge some of his okay. Great. We had to dodge 800... Now do that 800 times in a row and tell me that that's easy. Because every other attack is going to run through your summon.
A lot of them are saying that it's easy, and it's very, very frustrating to me because, like, as somebody with no experience with these types of things, it's normal for me to go and look and see what other people did, but everybody just says, oh, I used summons. And it's like, oh, well, the first thing I do when I enter the boss room is I hit the summon button. It's like, so what you were saying is that you had no intention of engaging with the boss's mechanics at all. You were just going to push him out of the way and move on, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with just pushing the boss out of the way using your most broken abilities and moving on, provided you aren't going to then turn around and leave a message saying that, oh, the foe is really weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then these people, I really do think they do this, and I don't think it's because they enjoy the other aspects of the game or anything. They give me the vibe that the reason they do this, and they go on social media and they post these messages around the game world, is because they like the clout, the social clout that comes with I beat a FromSoft game.
Yeah, I don't know why it conveys clout still though in that environment. Like at some point, it's going to have to be, oh, I beat a FromSoft game without using the summons. It's going to have to be that eventually. Because I think people will get wise to it eventually.
Well, we've already had this debate.
The people who are still playing the game in like a month's time, they're all going to add that qualifier on.
Yeah, this debate has happened before with Bloodborne and with the Dark Souls franchise, and that in those games you could summon as well, but it was real people, and so it was generally understood by the people that were willing to play those games, because the summons weren't as busted as they are in Elden Ring, but they still existed and made the boss way easier if you did. Or you could summon the NPCs, who, while not as good as a normal player, still did the job of taking aggro, which is the point.
Yep.
And it was understood that, you try not to summon for bosses, because that kind of takes all the fun out of it. Because back then, when FromSoft was still fairly niche, you just didn't get a whole lot of people that were willing to sit down and play these type of games unless they were looking for the challenge to begin with. So it was just kind of like, yeah, we could use the summons, but that kind of seems dumb. And the people that want to summon people, sure, but they know what they're getting into.
Yeah, like if I think that it is perfectly fine to play the game through on, say, a co-op mode. I don't know if that you can do that in Elden Ring or not, but I know you said that you played Code Vein with Abo.
Yeah, it was a painful experience because Code Vein in particular only tracks the progress of one player
Right.
at a time. So after we cleared an area, we either had to go back and do it again, or we had to, in the interim, I would have to catch up to him, and we do it on his save file.
Right. Well, I mean, that obviously needs some work, but the point is that you could play through in co-op, and I'm sure playing through on co-op makes it a lot easier from a pure difficulty point of view. But when people play a game on co-op, they do it with the understanding that playing a game on co-op is not the same thing as playing it single player. Everybody knows that, and I think that there's a sort of a philosophical gap that people need to sort of close in their minds, where actually when you're using a summon, essentially what you're doing is you're simulating the experience of playing it in co-op. So it's a 2v1 fight, it's not a 1v1 fight anymore, because a summon is another person, functionally.
Yeah, and once you rank up these summons, they have more health and more durability than any human player will. Because in this game, there's the damage values the enemies do to you are way higher than in any other FromSoft game that I've played in recent memory.
I heard that they actually used a different vigor scaling compared to previous titles because of that.
Yeah, you get more vigor per point, and it actually increases as you level up.
I heard that they even changed the soft caps.
Yeah, the soft caps are now much higher as well, for especially health and endurance. And this is because stuff just hits way harder in this game, so if you summon another player, and they're not on the ball, and they forgot to level vigor, the boss is just going to yeet them out of the arena with a golf club swing, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, so I'm engaged with it now. The one thing that presents a real legitimate problem for me is, as ever, time, because I still want to be playing Final Fantasy, to be honest. Like I want to play this game and see where it goes. Like I've seen a little bit. I haven't gone hugely out of my way looking for material online about this, although I talked a lot about stuff I found online, so it makes it sound like I spent a lot of time browsing for Elden Ring stuff, but that's not true. I have never even been to the wiki, although the wiki is a Extra Life wiki, so that's pretty much a plus. But I've seen a few bits and pieces here and there, and some of the sort of the later game, sometimes even just mid game or early game, weapons you can find with really cool effects and unique Ashes of War and stuff. They seem really, really fun to use. So there's a lot of motivation to engage with the game. Though a lot of the time I feel like I'm just not really playing it properly. But in a lot of ways you're supposed to abuse this game, I suppose. Like for instance, during the show, I'm basically most of the time I'm dying because I'm not paying full attention, but I'm basically just watching this ball roll off the hill because I want to get more runes. And the reason I want to get more runes is because I got the Ungabunga sword from behind the castle on the peninsula at the bottom of the starting area, and I want to be able to use it so that I can hit things with it. And the only way to do that is for me to get my stats high enough.
Yeah, you need 20 levels to do that.
Yeah, so it's ball rolling time. But yeah, I like that they don't like nerf things like that, because it's not really, you're still doing a thing that is required in order to, you're putting the time in order to get there, even if it's a silly thing and it's not exactly a fun thing, so you are making a sacrifice of sorts. But
they've been pretty good about not nerfing the EXP methods. Generally, unless one is just really broken, like really, really broken, they won't go out of their way to nerf it. They will nerf items occasionally and abilities that are just way too out of whack, like the Hoarfrost Stomp and the Mimic Tier were just way out of whack.
I've heard that there is like a really broken shield build that has come into vogue since the patch.
Yeah, the Spear and Great Shield Turtle and Poke.
Which is kind of where my build's wandering.
Oh yeah, it's since the shield changes so that generic shields have more block power on them, the great shields can just tank through some boss attacks, and I don't know if this was something they intended or not. And so if you can block and also attack with a stamina regeneration item, you can just do this forever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. like it's a cool thematic build, but if it's overpowered, it's overpowered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that the important things to get rid of though are things that totally subvert design intentions, like the Mimic Tears plus Hoarfrost Stomp thing, which basically meant that people weren't playing the game. I think that the virtually immortal shield based build will end up going down that road as well, where basically they're making the game not played because you're just standing there waiting for the boss to fall over. But other than that, the important things to get rid of are probably things that have a really corrosive effect on PvP as well. Although from what RE says, PvP has already died, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Even in duels and the like, you got the game is really busted in PvP right now. Like super busted. How do I describe this? So there's a lot of busted stuff in this game. Like a lot of it. Oh, I just lost torrent.
Silly horse, you're not supposed to explode.
No, I just got shot. Well, I got the key. So what was I saying? Right. So stuff like bleed damage, the turtle builds in PvP. They did fix a PvP absolutely busted ability, which whenever you dodged, you left a cloud that inflicted death. And by combining Bloodhound Step and the regular dodge and alternating them back to back really fast, you could put like 3 death clouds on somebody and have them insta-die.
Yeesh.
I think
That
I
was-
heard something about that, yeah.
I expect they're
Yeah,
going to
that-
go the same way with Madness, because as it is, if you dodge Madness attacks in PvP, you still take... It's not the full brunt of the stat build-up, but you still get a portion of it.
Oh yeah, but that's not even the real issue. If you get hit stunned at all long enough for them to land a single eye laser, you can just spam the eye laser for
Oh, yeah.
madness.
It's
And
cheap
they
as
will
all get out.
they will be stun locked for the entirety of your spamming, unless they have enough stats to wiggle out of it,
Yeah.
which
It-
isn't a lot of people.
No fun. No fun whatsoever.
So PvP in this game is pretty much DOA. They'd have to go ham and nerf a ton of stuff. It's going to be a bunch of cheesy builds running up against each other.
Oh, the cheese.
So not that anybody's ever really. There's a very small faction of people that like Souls PvP, but the netcode just ain't built for it. So most people don't care.
I've
The
tried...
netcode is bad.
It is bad. Like, I tried a couple of games where I went in as a hunter. The first one I went in, I actually managed to track down the invader, and I took one swing at him, he dodged it, and then disconnected. Every other hunter game I've gone in after that, I've usually gotten into the world and immediately been disconnected.
Yeah, the thing about Souls PvP, even when you get a game and it's all good and everybody seems fairly well connected, hitboxes are a myth.
As is lag.
And
Lag is a thing.
you will smack people when they are 20 feet away from you,
Yeah.
and they will smack you when they are 20 feet away from you, and your sword will phase right through them and cause no damage whatsoever.
So, enjoy that.
So Souls PvP, never something that really takes off outside of a very small community of people relative to the rest of the game. Most people are in this for the PvE experience.
Or not, as Mimic Tears shows.
Well, they're here to say they participated in the Souls experience, and
Yeah, they make
Yeah.
claims.
yeah, posting is just These people invent straw men of people telling them they can't use summons. That is literally not our argument. Nobody has ever said that. The only thing we've said that you've taken offense to is you're not participating in the same level of play we are, because you're not. You don't have to do most of the stuff we do when we don't use summons. You don't have to learn the bosses. You don't have to have a good build. You just have to have something tank it for you.
Well, you poke it in the butt.
Yeah.
Like, I still use the occasional summon, but I don't lean on it.
Yeah, this is people that are using the busted summons, like the one that summons the dude who does percent damage, or the Mimic tier, or the tanky headless dude that has like a gorillion HP.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that really sort of perplexes me about the level of their basically being in denial about what they're doing is that it's not like Mimic tier stopped being ridiculously OP.
Yeah. It just got a little bit nerfed. They just nerfed the damage output so it couldn't literally solo the bosses.
Yeah, so it wasn't that, oh well, I mean, they feel that they are properly participating in the game because they still had to dodge a few attacks or anything and beat the boss up. No, because they didn't even do that. They just summoned the summon did it for them. Because if it was not a problem for them to do it themselves while the summon tanks for them, they can still do that. But they're mad because they actually have to play.
Yeah, they have to play the video game, and this is just too much for some people.
Anyway, my week has drawn on at quite a great deal of length. But I don't think I have much else to say right now. I suppose that coming up this week, I have made a couple, probably my last two big ticket purchases for setting up this new house. In that I have bought a chair. I had to buy a chair from like a proper furniture store because it's very hard to find a decent chair. Because I don't want it to break within a year. And my backside currently hurts a lot because the foam on the chair that I currently use is so completely compressed that it offers almost no padding whatsoever, and it's become quite uncomfortable. I have to pile blankets on it now just to sit on it because my backside gets so sore after like half an hour. But yeah, so I've bought a chair, a very expensive chair because chairs are very expensive apparently.
Yeah.
Like you don't know how expensive furniture is until you try and buy some, and then you get confused about why there are so many digits on the screen.
And that's not even counting the difference between regular furniture and actually good furniture.
Yeah, and also I had to. So I bought from a furniture store selling actual furniture, not office furniture, not cheap furniture, but like an actual furniture store. The other thing is that you pretty much have to buy local these days because shipping something as large as a piece of furniture with current shipping rates, well, I'm sure Aristeel can give you chapter and verse on shipping large objects. But
let me tell you, my customers are not happy. But I ain't eating that cost.
Considering what you're shipping is essentially a fancy big block of metal.
Oh yeah, it has to go on freight, which means we have to pay for pallets.
Yeah, heavy.
But yeah, so that's one thing, and the other thing is I decided that I'm going to get myself a larger monitor, and the setup on one of my monitors is like a main monitor. So I went about looking for a monitor. Now I'm not actually terribly concerned about high resolution because when it comes to a large monitor, mainly what I want it for is watching Blu-rays, and I don't buy ultra high def Blu-rays because there's no point in ultra high def for anime. That's kind of silly.
It's all upscaled 1080p anyway.
Yeah, so I was fine with the 1080p monitor, which means that you can actually get a reasonably large 1080p monitor without having to pay a ridiculous amount because monitors are also a very, very expensive object still. So I was able to get like a 31-inch one for about $480, I think, New Zealand, which is pretty good rate here. So that will be coming in due course as well, provided it actually gets delivered intact by the postal service, which is something I'm always a bit suspicious of. But yeah, so I'll probably set that one up as my main monitor for watching things on and playing games on, and one of my monitors will get demoted to being mothballed until I can think of what to do with it, and the other one will be the sort of auxiliary for putting things on that I want to look at while doing something else. But yeah, so I'll set that up with my surround sound in the right place and all that type of thing, and with a comfortable chair to sit in. So I will finally have an office that's set up in a semi-comfortable way. But yeah, so that's that. And also the other reason I didn't worry too much about getting a higher resolution monitor, since the people who haven't gone all in for 4K are still like, oh well, you need 1440 at least. And I thought about that, but then I realized what you're actually asking me to do in that case is spend another $800 on a graphics card. Because
Yeah,
that's like $800 is like entry level now.
Yeah.
Like,
Graphics
what is
cards
going
are
on?
stupid expensive.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I haven't ever been constrained from actually playing a video game with my 6 years old graphics card. So there's not really a strong motivation for me to upgrade it. Like, I don't know what sort of how demanding Elden Ring is on the system. It can't be that demanding because I've got it set to high quality graphics, which is not maximum, but it looks plenty nice on high. I'm not bothered by anything that I'm seeing on screen here.
yeah.
It looks quite nice.
It's
And
not too demanding, and the issues seem to be related to some kind of driver issue with the cards themselves because it's random what cards, and they're all over the spectrum that have them.
but what I will say is that I've seen very little frame hitching and no crashes, and I'm using an ancient graphics card to run Elden Ring, and it looks perfectly fine. So in light of that, like when I was thinking about like the real world situation, is like, oh well, Elden Ring is a recently released game. It looks really nice on my computer, even though my computer is old and my graphics card is even older, and there's just not a reason to spend hundreds and hundreds more dollars on getting a fancy graphics card and an even fancier monitor when I can get a really large normal monitor for a reasonable price and improve my game experience that way. So
when you hit a point that you need to upgrade your graphics card, by all means do it properly. But until you need to do it, don't do it.
yeah, and I think that'd be quite far away if like after 6 years I'm still not getting slowdown on a game released this year, playing it with graphics that I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah, we just don't have any games coming out that are more demanding than, a 1060 can handle.
Maybe if I was a sort of person who really, really needed to play every latest COD and Battlefield game on max settings, maybe then I would need a powerful graphics card, but I don't. Like ray tracing, what's that? I don't even care.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think I'm going to notice the difference between a ancient 6-year-old graphics card and a 3,000-year-old graphics card when playing a Neptunia game. Like, I just don't think that this is going to be an issue for me.
Yeah. This isn't like the landscape has certainly changed since it was like even 10 years ago, where you'd have a new big blockbuster game and everyone would have to rush to get a graphics card just to run the thing. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah, you ain't got to do that no more.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
and I don't think this is cope for me being poor either. It really just doesn't seem to be a big deal to me.
No, it's not as big a deal as it used to be.
There are people who are real connoisseurs for this type of thing, but like
I imagine there's a lot less in today's market.
yeah, although I'm sure it's going to. I think that what we're going to end up with ultimately in X years time on the current trajectory is people who upgrade their graphics cards are going to end up in the same category as say people who are audiophiles, in that normies just can't understand why you would ever bother spending that sort of money to get no visible change. I think that's where we're liable to end up. Because, I mean, we've seen how well it washes with people when you have the experience of frame rates getting too high and graphical fidelity getting too high, and that experience of seeing every pore on the skin of the characters. Like, doesn't actually improve your experience. In fact, it starts to detract from it at a certain point, and I think we will end up crossing that bridge sooner or later. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I'm just going the bigger monitor route and the comfortable seat route, because for me, this chair on which I am sitting is an important part of my game experience. I think that this is generally speaking underrated, judging by the fact that people seem to sit in gamer chairs, whatever those are.
Lies. That's what they are.
What even is a gamer chair? Does it make you better at Vidya when you sit in it? Is that how it works?
It looks really dumb. That's what they do.
They're supposed to be ergonomic.
Are they though? Because they look kind of janky and uncomfortable. I've never sat in like a proper one. Like the chair that I'm currently sitting in is on paper a gamer chair, but it was like a gamer chair from the warehouse, which is like getting the cheapest gamer chair available at Best Buy.
Yeah. That's essentially it.
So it's my experience sitting into it is that it is modestly inferior to every other office chair that I've ever owned.
Yeah, I have forever been a advocate for the executive style of office chair.
Yep.
It is very expensive, but it's worth every penny if you get one whose cushion doesn't go out on you after 3 months.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. Like I was going to go that route, but I could not find anybody was willing to sell me a executive office chair that looked comfortable. Like they all had weird janky things, or they were going for a minimalist design which made it look really uncomfortable, or they were like built out of mesh, so it looked like if I sat down too heavily I'd fall through it.
Those mesh ones
You know,
can be
things
comfortable.
like that. They can be comfortable, but can you trust them? Can you trust them with the safety of your ass? Can
No.
you flop down in one at the end of a long day and
Oh,
not
yeah,
fall
do
over
not
because
flop.
it's got no weight?
But,
Yeah, it's got no mass to it.
Yeah, except the really good ones might take a couple of flops. But the biggest
But the thing-
advantage of them is that they breathe.
Yeah, they do breathe, that's true. However, mesh chairs are made obviously out of like X% less materials, but they cost that percent more
Yes.
than a non-mesh one for
Yes.
some reason. So everything about office chairs was militated against me getting one. So in the end, what I eventually did was I bought a recliner. I bought a recliner that was styled as an office chair.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got the sort of settings to be able to tilt like a recliner and fix in that position and so on. And it's got the sort of like the padding and upholstery of a recliner, but it's built like an office chair with a base and a rotating column and that sort of thing as well. And rather than having the footrest built into the chair like a conventional recliner, it's just got a really fancy ottoman basically that goes with it. That of course you can just put aside. It doesn't need to be there when you're not using it. So I'm hoping that this will be the solution to my woes. And that's going to be delivered by the furniture store to me tomorrow, and then I will find out if it is possible to actually get it through my doorways.
That's the
Which
big
is always-
mystery.
Yeah, that's always the big mystery. I was actually going to go even more upmarket and just get an absolute full bells and whistles recliner, since I spend so much of my life sitting on my ass. But then I realized that once you get one of those things, it's basically stuck in place because it's so big and so heavy. So I decided to shoot for the middle ground and get something that's sort of like an office chair and sort of like a recliner. Hopefully I'll get the best of both worlds rather than the worst of them. But that remains to be seen. It will be an expensive lesson if I've made a poor decision, but a lesson is a lesson and I'll know for the future.
All right.
So we'll leave it there.
All right. We should take a break then.
Oh no!
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Are you objecting to the break or...
Oh no, I fell.
Yeah, there's a big old hole. He just dropped straight down.
I missed the jump. Alright, here's some music, folks. We'll be right back.
Tell me what it feels like, because I already know. It's not the first time I felt so low. I got up like a flashlight, the battery's about to go. I gotta let the darkness go. That's not a way to live life, 6 feet down below. I can see these demons in my hallway no more. Catch me bleeding out the feelings I've never felt before. I can see these demons in my hallway no more. Catch me bleeding out the feelings I've never felt before. I think I'm messed up. I gotta let the darkness go. That's not a way to live life, 6 feet down below. I think I'm messed up. I gotta let the darkness go. That's not a way to live life, 6 feet down below. I can see these demons in the hallway no more. Catch me bleeding out the feelings I've never felt before. I can see these demons in the hallway no more. Catch me bleeding out the feelings I've never felt before.
And we're back.
Meals, yes we are, and I'll apologise slightly for any little wonky bits going on in on the visuals.
Yeah, Elden Ring doesn't play well with streaming software.
No.
I don't know what it is. Like many things in this game, there's just random jank everywhere.
There's also the small issue of it being streamed all the way around the world and then all the way back.
Yeah, so Fern has to accept my stream and then send that to YouTube, and then that has to get to you guys. So it we got a bit of super jank going on.
If you're watching it live, it may have actually gone around the world 3 or 4 times before it reaches you.
Yeah, but this is how we have to do the alternative streaming stuff because Fern has to run the rig because every time I run it, terrible things happen. And my upstream is spotty at best, and we can handle a little bit of visual dip when my connection gets spotty. We cannot handle the show dropping.
Yeah. Alright. So, I finished one look in this game. I'm looking snazzy, but now I need to make another one. Because, you know, Final Fantasy XIV, it's all about the fashion.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're not fabulous, it's just not worth saving the world.
You're not even supposed to go outdoors unless you look good. I mean, what's wrong with you? Don't. I thought I'd already bought a Deep Shadow. Never mind, I'll buy one now. You buy one, so I guess I didn't.
And never have too many edgy coats.
Ah. Problem is yeah, trying to find stuff for the machinist that's not cowboy. There's plenty of that. I want to lean more on the engineer side of things. Anywho, Ari, what has your week been doing?
This week, when I get to the gaming section, it's going to sound really impressive, but I'll explain why it's not once I get there. But most of my week was spent at work and doing work-related things. We had another startup this week. This one, thankfully, was relatively simple and was even above ground discharge with vertical pumps. So all I had to do was get a step ladder and make sure they were turned in the right direction, and then I could check all the boxes on the startup thing. So, while an annoying trip out of the way, it was thankfully very, very easy and did not take much time. The other thing is just general work garbage. Just keeps piling up on me out of nowhere. Just
Yeah.
generic people want random junk all the time. And I just don't ever feel like I have time to come up for air. Like, there's always something that needs doing in my inbox, and it's driving me up the wall.
It doesn't do that way sometimes.
Like, I just want a day where I can breathe and make sure that everything is all caught up. Is that too much to ask?
Well, this is what other employees are for.
The help.
Yeah, but my only other employee is the opossum.
Well, he's not your employee; he's your employer.
Yes, well, nominally. On paper, he is. I'm the one that writes the paychecks. This is going to be tough without a dexterity build. I'll have to really think my way through this one.
Hmm. Or you could just chop him and chop him and chop him some more.
Some big thunks going on right now.
Yes.
Some mega unga bungas. So yeah, it's just been really busy at work. Oh, nope.
Yeah, that's looking good, but not machinisty enough.
So yeah, I've just been stuck in a rut at work, and it's been eating so much time. Like I just want some time to come up for air at the office, because when I get home, I don't check my email. Because if I do, I'll feel compelled to fix whatever problem I notice.
Yep.
And I have to tell myself, don't check your email. I'll check it sometimes on the weekend so I know what's coming, and I'm too tired to do anything about it, like on a Saturday, Sunday evening or something. But I try not to check my email for many very good specific reasons. And it doesn't stop. Somebody wants a quote. Somebody has a PO they need processed. Somebody needs billing done. The factory finally gets back to me on a question I asked them 3 weeks ago when the customer's already ticked off at me.
That's right.
This is becoming a regularly annoying thing with me as well, and that shipping rates are through the roof, number one. Number two, ow.
Ow.
Yeah, number two, things can bonk me too. Hang on, let me kill this dude. Okay, I think I'm clear. Number two, shipping rates are through the roof. And lead times, which is time of order being placed to shipment, is astronomical right now due to supply chain issues. Like, there's no steel, there's no chips for the control panels or the sensors in the pumps. There is no fiberglass for the basins. Like, all this stuff is just piling up and causing customers to chain call me with, hey, where's my stuff? You know, back in January when you quoted this to me, you said 4 weeks. It's now 8 weeks. I'm like, I know. As of March, it is 8 weeks. It's not. I can't say it's not my fault. That's something you never tell a customer. But it's the factory's fault. They didn't tell me the lead times would get this bad, and to be fair, they didn't know either.
Well, that depends. Did they vote for Joe Biden?
They're in Wisconsin.
Oh, am I kidding? Nobody voted for him.
Careful, that's a bannable offense on the YouTubes.
No, don't worry. He is the perfectly legitimate president of the United States.
Yeah, everything was on the up and up.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's it has been a mess at work, especially with the supply chain issue, because I don't know what to tell these people, and I'm trying to be as nice as humanly possible without shifting blame off myself too much. And it's got to the point where I've just started calling the factory and being like, you need to call this customer. They are ticked off.
Yeah.
And I can't blame the customer either. The only person I can blame is Joe Biden. Like, I don't have the stuff to send my customers because at the start of the year, before you managed to cock everything up so bad that we're in the position we're at now, I could quote 4-week lead times on stuff. And now I can't do that anymore. I still have orders from December that haven't gone out.
Yeesh.
If a particular part is just stuck in manufacturing because they can't get what they need.
It's like that everywhere, really, in every industry. Everything is just stuck in manufacturing.
Yeah, it is a nightmare. So yeah, that has been driving me nuts at work. But yeah. And when I get home, this week what I did was I wanted to go back to Sekiro. Because I like Sekiro a lot. Like, I really like Sekiro. But Sekiro is also the hardest FromSoft game. And so initially I was like, oh man, this is going to be a little rough jumping back into this one. No, actually. It turns out the muscle memory in that game sticks with you the whole way through.
Well, it's quite unique in a sense.
Yeah, so you, when you play Sekiro, and you finally beat Sekiro, it's amazing how many of the bosses' tells you remember because the game will drill them into your head so hard the first time. And I was able to just walk up and breeze my way through the game. And Sekiro's a short game because it expects you to get stuck on the bosses. Like, those bosses are tough the first few times you do them. Like, they're really hard. Easily the hardest FromSoft has put out mechanically. But going back, I just kind of sneezed my way through the game literally 3 times to unlock the bonus bosses. And it took maybe 10 hours. So, while it sounds impressive, you beat Sekiro 3 times. Yeah, it only took 10 hours because the game just sticks with you. If you remember most of the attack patterns, which I didn't think I would. But you get in there, and the rhythm is just so beaten into you when you play that game initially that you just know. So yeah. That was a thing I spent some time doing, and the rest of it was just spent on a whole lot of work garbage. I came and you're seeing the character I've been playing in Elden Ring a little bit. I've adopted my current character, which is the Unga Bunga character, with no brains, 2 great swords, eventually 2 colossal swords when I find a second one that I can wield. And just laughing as I throw my strength around and can hit stun people I had no prayer of hit stunning before.
Honestly, I'm half surprised you don't just swing into dual wielding great clubs and literally Unga Bunga your way through it.
Well, I haven't found any good great clubs. I have one great axe. I have one. Let's see. I have 2 great swords. I have 2 colossal swords, but I can't wield the grafted blade great sword that Vol'jin's got the ability to wield 2-handed until I get 40 strength, or 1-handed until I get 40 strength. So that was a little ways off. I got the axe of Godric from his fight, and that's all I got for big honking weapons. Because the idea of this playthrough is just big strength, Unga Bunga, no shield, dodge everything, and wear the biggest, fattest, heaviest armor you can while doing all of it.
That's how I play every action game.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is not how I play every action game. In fact, this is how I don't play most games. Normally, I'm all about the faster play style that relies on being quick on your feet and getting out of the way of the enemy. Ironically, in Elden Ring, that is the Unga Bunga build, it turns out. And you just have to be very deliberate with where you place your hits. Because you're going to do a lot of damage bringing 2 greatswords down on top of their head. But you don't have a whole lot of ways to get out of the way of stuff. And you're animation locked for quite a while.
Make sure you smack them.
Yeah, so make sure you smack them appropriately at the right time.
Yes.
So you've seen me doing a few basic things with the build. You saw me beat the boss of Stormveil Castle in about 6 attempts earlier. The just silly damage these things do, and I was level 33 at that, so about the right level. I'm trying not to overlevel stuff like last time because I do like actually having to play the build. Overleveling is a concern for me. But yeah, so I'm just getting my swords all upgraded so I can go poke at the academy. I think a +8, +7 should be enough, and see how that goes. And that's why you saw me running through the mine earlier. And yeah, it's good. I've had more time to process my thoughts on Elden Ring generally. I definitely don't think any fight in the game comes close to the tier of Slave Knight Gale, Santa Claus, from Dark Souls 3. None of the dragon fights really reach Midir, but the game overall feels really good to play. But going back through it a second time is something that's gonna be up to your individual taste, because the game is so big and meta knowledge has such a big impact on the game. Like, knowing where to go to get the stuff you need. Like, I knew that mine I needed to go to get the smithing ball bell to just buy smithing stones.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones. Knowing where to find all those bell bearings.
Yeah, knowing where to find 2 great swords, what armor is decent, where the bosses are that you should be fighting at the appropriate level. It takes the adventure aspect out, obviously, because you've already beat the game. But it makes the game feel very mechanical. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long I'll stick with the Unga Bunga build. I mostly did it just to refresh myself on the early game, so that I could help Fallout a little bit while he gets started, and just see where it goes with that. And in general, I like playing the game. I like FromSoft games. They've already clicked with me. The targeting system doesn't bother me anymore. It's something I've just adjusted to, and it's now just the way the games play. The tight timing on the rolls, the input queuing. While the input queuing was a pain in the butt, I know to check my inventory, stupid video game. I already got the key because meta knowledge. But yeah, all that stuff is just natural to me now because I played these games for so long, and I don't have to wrestle with that. And so I just like taking builds around and practicing having to do bosses in different ways. And yeah, a lot of my week in terms of Elden Ring can be summed up as being mad at people coat posting. Like, but we harped on that a good bit. It's just, it really annoys me. You have no idea how much it annoys me. And I don't even know why it really annoys me so much that they're coat posting, because they're not really impacting me by coat posting, but they're inventing this type of person that doesn't exist to complain about. That's yeah, like they're just creating this fabrication. This that does not exist. Nobody is saying you can't use summons. But what we are saying is you're not playing the video game.
Is get good.
Yeah, basically. And there is something to get good. I know the community doesn't mean anything by it. They're just saying it as a meme. But there is a deeper truth to the meme. Get good is how you play FromSoft games. It's how you play most of the difficult action games that come out these days. There is no magic trick. There is no real advice I can give you. I can give you the minutia of get good. Like I did that for Ball earlier this week when he asked for specifics about bosses. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting murdered because I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time. Okay, I escaped.
Oh yeah, that stairwell. Oh, that stairwell.
I'll be fine if I can get up here.
Yep, and now chop. There you go.
Now you get Unga Bunga. But in general, the advice is just keep playing.
Yeah, stick with it.
You will get better and better. You'll learn the dodge timing. You'll learn the queuing system. You'll learn the targeting system, and you'll eventually get it all down, and it'll flow like water. But it takes time and it takes practice, and then you'll learn the bosses. You'll learn their tells. The people come in asking specific advice for specific bosses, I can help you a little bit on that by telling you some of the bosses' tells, things to look out for. You tell me about generic stuff with bosses, I can give you some beginner hints. But it's get good is really the essence of a FromSoft game in any difficult action game. It's just it takes practice.
Good. Practice and muscle memory.
Yeah, and it does become muscle memory after a while. Like, you'll notice I'm not having any issues with the targeting, despite obviously seeing how wonky it is and how it's limiting me. I just have to know to keep this mage somewhere where his attacks will get line of sighted while I'm attacking and targeting the other thing. And it's something I don't think about, it's something I just do because I practiced it enough. So, yeah, it's been interesting discussing Elden Ring with different people of different playstyles and different amounts of time that they put into, especially FromSoft and difficult games, because it helps give me a bit of perspective. Because now I'm in the camp of people that I guess you would call Souls vets that have played these type of games enough. Because I do forget a lot of stuff, like the targeting system is a specific thing that takes a while to get used to. And the input queuing, and how it's not going to be easy for people to adjust to doing deliberate inputs instead of mashing. Like that's something I forget about. But all of this discussion that could be thoughtfully had with a whole lot of people is instead poisoned by lol, just use Mimic Tier.
Yeah.
And I want to have these discussions with people. I think they're worth having. I think they're very interesting to see how different people play games and tackle relatively challenging situations differently. But you can't have that if everybody's all gamed into the solution of, I didn't play the video game.
Old Mimic here.
Yeah. And so all those discussions become moot. And that's what I think has really been annoying me about the whole thing, and why it's getting under my skin. So, yeah. It's a little bit selfish that wanting to have that conversation is a thing on me, but I still think it's a legitimate thing that sounds like it has value. Certainly more so than posting lol Mimic Tier.
Yeah. Yeah, so anything really jumping out at you for the second playthrough?
Not really. It's all been a very mechanical playthrough. The one strike against Elden Ring that knocks it down from being on the same tier as like Dark Souls 3 in terms of these type of games is I gotta get this guy off me. I gotta mash. Oh, that's the thing, by the way. If you get in the grab animation, most enemies you can mash out of it by mashing L1 and R1 repeatedly. So, just a pro tip in case you didn't know. Nothing's really jumped out in the second playthrough, but the first playthrough, I was a little disappointed that most of the really tough bosses were loaded all onto the back. Like, you expect the hardest bosses to be on the back end of the game, but it feels like they really, really stuck the real head knockers all at the very end. Like, Mog, Lord of Blood, and, Melania is expected to be on the back end because she's the secret boss, but, get off of me. Mini zombies, left side, uneven side. Yeah. And the final bosses are expected to be there. But like a boss like Horalu, Mr. That won't spoil anything for you because he changes his name halfway through. And like that boss who's Hulk Hogan is really tough until you get his tails down. But he's also on the back end. You got bosses like Lich Dragon Fortis Axe that's thrown way behind a giant quest chain that realistically you probably won't finish until endgame. And unless you're like me and obsessively doing everything you can in the game. So I wish the difficulty curve was a bit more spread, and I wish they had a few more bosses of that quality just kind of laying around, interspersed throughout the game, because it feels like on my second playthrough I'm waiting to get to endgame to really see how this build functions against bosses that are actually really tough. Because for me, Margit fell over in like 10 attacks. If that. 2 Greatsword Unga Bunga just melts the dude, and you saw what it did to Godfrey.
Yeah, just demolished him.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So,
Margaret, there's a way to cheese, so.
yeah, I've known about the shackle. Not when I first did it, but I've known about the shackle since then, and I just have chosen not to use it because Margaret's still an interesting fight if you don't use it.
Yeah,
I
I haven't been using it in my few attempts, but most people seem to just say, "Oh, you just use it. Just use it. He's easy. He's easy boss. Easy boss."
No, do him properly.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Actually-
play these games. I'm not very good at them. But he doesn't strike me as being an actually easy boss, to be quite honest.
He's a perfectly normal. Dang it, these stupid things. I'm not going to be able to get him from down
As a
here.
first boss, I think he might be a bit much, to be honest.
Yeah,
He
he-
takes a
he-
bit of getting used to because he likes to just ignore gravity sometimes.
Yeah, in phase 2 when he pulls out the hammer, that's when things get fun.
Yeah, especially then. But
Honestly, I think he's easier. He's easier when he's got his hammer out because he does more jumping attacks, and that basically all of his jumping attacks are more punishable. In fact, all of his attacks that he uses with his hammer out are more punishable than the ones without the hammer. So for me, he's actually easier once he gets the hammer out. The problem is by the time I get him there, I've got almost no health.
yeah, sounds about
Yeah,
right.
the when I was doing it with my dexterity build, the hammer was actually the harder phase, but on my Unga Bunga build with big slower weapons, that was definitely the phase that I got the easier hits in. Although I just clobbered him, so it was kind of hard to make a super detailed judgment there because he just kind of got whacked. Poor guy. but yeah, it is what it is what it is. We getting the frame hitch.
I have to say, I deeply resent my inability to cut Margaret's tail off.
Yeah, it used to be a mechanic that if you cut the tail of an enemy, you would get a special weapon.
I'd be happy for him to just not have his tail once I cut it off. I would settle for that.
I'm not entirely sure why they removed it. But yeah, you used to be able to cut all the dragons' tails off. Plenty of enemies you could cut their tails off. Not in regular enemies, but mini boss type enemies. You could. I guess the Drake counts as a dragon type of dragon, but yeah, you cut Cease's tail off. You could cut the gargoyles' tails off, and you would always get a unique weapon for it, and that's just kind of not in the game anymore. And they seem to have moved away from that. I guess because once the boss is dead, it's gone, and they don't want to lock people out of having missed stuff. They moved away from hard missable items outside of quest chains.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Now
Also-
they still lock you out of questline stuff though for some reason.
It's kind of weird. So, just on a complete random tangent, I never actually noticed this before, but going in and out of the penance in the first, there's a spoonbill, or sorry, a shoonbill there.
Yes,
bird,
there is.
and it moves every time. I've never noticed this thing before.
I didn't realize it moved. I know that I've seen it in various places, but I guess I didn't note that it was in different places.
Yeah, it moves every time you come in and out. It's somewhere different.
I'm not sure why shoe bills are such a meme in Japan, but they seem to be.
They are the least impressed looking bird.
Then there's
Right.
Emmett Selt's bird,
Yeah, that's a shoebill. The one
the
he drops.
prototype shoe bill.
Yeah. Which is incredibly fitting because he also has the same facial expression.
Oh me, oh my.
Now I've got a look that works for endgame cinematics. It's not exactly the sort of material I'd like to wear in a temperature above freezing, but we'll go with that.
So yeah, I don't really have much to add to what I've already said on Elden Ring before. I kind of meant it when I said I've done and talked about everything I could. It's a good vidja. It's more FromSoft vidja, and I don't have all the beginner's humps, so hearing them again is interesting from other people, and remembering that, oh yeah, that was a thing that I just kind of muscled my way through. But yeah, it is what it be, and Sekiro is still good, despite saying I zipped through it 3 times. There really ain't much to talk about with it. It's Sekiro. It's there's plenty of articles out there, but it did bring something worth that comes to mind about the different tone of the game journalist conversations when Sekiro came out versus when Elden Ring came out. Because when Elden Ring came out, there were 2 big differences. Number one, they were big mad because people were really liking Elden Ring and not their video game.
Yes.
And when Sekiro came out, there wasn't really something that Sekiro was eating the lunch of. But Elden Ring seems to have come out of nowhere and eaten a lot of people's lunch when they just didn't expect it to. And then you have the... I've seen a little bit of the games need an easy mode thing, but not as much as when Sekiro came out. Because Sekiro is hard, really hard your first time through. Like, the game will kick your butt up and down, and when you get to Genichiro, the game is going to sit your butt down for about 5 or 6 hours and say, you're going to learn how to play this video game.
Yep.
And there is no way around that. There is no leveling up. There is no gear. There is you sit down and do it. And that's just kind of how Sekiro works. And it just was really interesting to see the tone of the conversation be different this time, because things like Mimic Tier exists, things like really OP weapons all over the place, summons in general being everywhere. There were also no summons in Sekiro. There are in the other FromSoft games, but not in Sekiro. And just seeing the tone be completely different, because people are just talking about how they accomplished this great thing with Mimic Tier, or whatever their broken summon of choice is, plus something with Hoarfrost Stomp, or the Sword of Night and Flame, or whatever your busted weapon is. And all these things that basically take no effort. I've still seen a little bit of a game... FromSoft games should have an easy mode floating around, but not nearly as bad as it has been. So, it just something worth noting if you ever go dig into how these conversations tend to go, and you keep track of the public discourse. It's interesting to see the difference. But yeah, I don't really have much more to go on that. It was just something I noticed.
All right. Anything else for your week?
Not really. Honestly, work has been the biggest consumer of time this week. It'll say I have like 40 hours in Sekiro for this week, but most of that was Sekiro's not a system hog at all, so I just kind of left it on.
It just kind of chugs because the PC version's a bit poorly optimized.
Oh, they've patched it to be better with the latest release.
Yeah, it gets better every patch. Still got a ways to go, though.
Do I want to go to Volcano Manor now?
Stopping you, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll take the No, we won't take the teleport. There's nothing I need up there.
Gun.
So yeah, I'm unfortunately drained for my week in a time when we are desperate for content in weeks, because it just work ate so much time this week. I was MIA most of the week. Like I would get on some evenings, but I would mostly just be gone.
Yeah.
I was too tired when I got home. Play like a few bosses in Sekiro and go to bed.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, I started getting caught up on the Pinecone story, but that's about it.
All right. I'd say we should go over to some news, but there isn't any.
Yeah.
Unless you really want to talk about the next WoW season.
Vol would be the one to go to on that. I know nothing about the current WoW
I know
stuff.
nothing about it, unfortunately.
Well, I don't think there's anything much that I can say about it other than Blizzard continuing to be Blizzard and screwing up every time they may or may be within spitting distance of being onto a good thing, then they invariably screw it up and badly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that from what it seems like right now, they're trying to manage their new raid, but they keep clowning it up. Their race to world first is a mess at the moment because they, as usual, are constantly trying to push hot fixes to their defective content. And oh no, this guild cleared a boss while a hotfix had just been deployed while they were fighting, therefore it doesn't count because reasons. And things like that. Like that. World first bullcrap's so dumb.
World first
Yeah.
stopped mattering years.
After BC, I stopped caring about World. In fact, the Ice Crown Citadel is when I stopped caring about World first. When the debacle with the engineering bombs happened.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh yeah.
They
yeah.
banned people for that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, even though it was, their crappy code that created
And-
an exploit in the first place.
They kept trying to insist that it was them intentionally breaking the game when the bombs were already part of the rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw so many white knights coming to Blizzard for that one. And that's when I stopped caring about World First.
Yeah, I didn't understand what the issue was with that, but I think that there were a lot of people who I expected would be on the players' side weren't. Like TB didn't agree with the players; he agreed with Blizzard, for instance, on that one.
Yeah,
I believe.
but
So I don't know if there was details about that I didn't know because I wasn't really watching it because I wasn't playing during Ice Crown. So.
He also had a girlfriend in the guild, I think, at the time.
Oh right, yeah, that was also a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he might have had some more inside knowledge than we did. But on the surface, the information looked like there was plenty of reasonable doubt for the players.
Yeah, but the thing is that, generally speaking, at that level, the players will cheat if they can find a way of doing it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of hard to say, but I mean, the current situation is that the game has become so degenerate in the way that it works that everything now revolves around boosting and the gold earned by it. Like everything in the game, everything from top to bottom, whether you're at the lowest levels of progression or involved in the race to world first, the only thing that matters is that world first, that boosting phenomenon, because the world first is going to be decided by who can get the most tier in any given amount of time, and that means that they need to spread their players among as many runs as possible to get tier for their mains, and the result of that ultimately is that they have to sell runs, and the prices that they're offering for some of that run selling are pretty incredible, like millions of gold just to, they're selling loot in exchange for getting the tier, basically, and they will give people huge amounts of money to turn over huge amounts of gold to turn over that tier to their people, and all of this is money illicitly earned from a banned phenomenon. But Blizzard knows that the race to world first is fueled by something they've banned, so they just turn a blind eye for all of the people who keep the world first race relevant, and they ban all the people who don't participate in that. So it's very much a case of the aristocracy and everyone else. But yeah, from what people have been saying, it seems like most of the current objections revolve around the atrocity that is their story.
Well, I don't
in the
think
way
they've
that
got
that's-
really anywhere they can take it anymore.
Well, it's not a case of anymore. It's a case of from what people are saying, they had a story written that was significantly better, and they scrapped it. They scrapped it completely,
In favour of...
like 6 months away from launch.
Yes, and they filled it with the jailer and his ever-present nipple.
Well, the thing is that the jailer was supposed to be a minor side character.
Yes.
He wasn't supposed to be the one around which the story revolved. which is why why his motivations are non-existent and none of his plans make sense.
Yeah, he's one-dimensional completely.
Yeah, it was because he was not written to be a three-dimensional character. He was written to just be this bit guy who does this one job. But yeah, they've made a mess of the entire thing, and there's not really much getting away from that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very very dopey situation and incredibly unnecessary. The mistakes that they have made over the course of this past expansion are all unforced errors. Like
Oh.
I don't buy for 1/10 of a fraction of a second the story that they wrote themselves into a corner and this is inevitable. No, they didn't. It's not. They had nowhere to go. They can do whatever they want. They are in control of the law now. But what they chose to do was something that they thought was cool and isn't actually cool.
Yeah. Even if you do buy
They
that
are
story,
they are
they've-
bad writers. They're
They
bad
are.
at their job.
Yeah, even if you do go with that argument, well, it doesn't hold any water. In the past, Blizzard have had plot elements that they've written into a corner, and they've just gone retcon.
Yeah, but they're bad at their job, and that's what it comes down to. Like, Danusa is the one who's in charge of the law with Metzen gone, and one of the things he's most famous for saying is that he thinks that the ending of the TV series of Game of Thrones was great.
Oh, that's all you need to know right there.
Yeah, he's famous for thinking that the last season of Game of Thrones was just an incredible finale.
It was an incredible something. That.
Good.
Yeah, so we still haven't seen the new expansion yet. They've made murmurings about what the next content season's going to be, whatever that means. But yeah, I think we just got to wait for them to sit down and actually make all their big announcements, and then we'll treat them with the correct amount of scorn.
Well, you see, ultimately though, I don't see any reason to believe things can be better. Like, there are lots of optimists who think that, they just need to learn a few lessons and everything will be fine. But the lesson that actually needs to be learned is, like, explaining to your D&D group's DM that the story they think is cool is not actually cool and never has been.
Yep.
Like, how hard is it to get them to accept something like that?
Yeah, they don't want to hear it.
If anything, that will make them dig their heels in more. I expect the next story to be even worse.
Honestly, yes.
Like, we're going to go full you think you do but you don't. This next expansion, I think, like, I don't think that they appreciate being told that, the story that you told about Sylvanas was a pile of garbage. Nobody liked it, and you ruined a perfectly good character that people loved. They're not going to react by thinking about how they could have made such a mistake. No.
No.
That's not what's going to happen at all.
Yeah, that's some very wishful thinking.
Very, very wishful.
Even on insignificant things, people aren't like to change their opinions unless forced to.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if you just tell someone that they were wrong about something, most of the time they just dig their heels in further. That's what's most likely to happen. And if any team has been shown to be vulnerable to this, the World of Warcraft team is definitely it.
Oh,
They have no concept whatsoever of what it means to cut your losses and back down on a bad decision.
Yeah, I don't have any faith for World of Warcraft, and even if I secretly did, I need to tell myself I have no faith in it, so I'm never tempted to go back again.
But from what I can see, most of the current player base has no engagement whatsoever. Like, they don't care. The only people that are there are the people who sort of, like, unabashedly see everything as just a gear treadmill and are okay with that, because there are those people. But the people who are in the game for getting the World of Warcrafts, like, to what extent those few people are still there, they aren't anymore. They aren't engaged anymore, because there's no World of Warcraft left in World of Warcraft as far as anybody can see.
Really isn't.
It doesn't resemble it. The world that was Azeroth doesn't really exist anymore in any meaningful way. Not right now.
They somehow even managed to cock up Classic. Like, all you had to do was
that
do
one
nothing.
seems to be 100% on Bobby. Like Bobby and people who think like Bobby did that.
You got greedy.
Yeah, because that was what ruined it, really. Other than the botting, which is their usual total inattention to a problem, it's their greed is what ruined it. They decided that they could make a little bit of extra money off it. They weren't happy with all of the people that signed up and paid recurring subscriptions to participate in this sort of like renaissance of the classic way of doing things. That wasn't good enough for them. They needed more money. More money.
Yeah,
They didn't need to do that. That was yet another unforced error. Like, none of these things are them choosing the best of two bad choices. Every single one of these things is having a good choice and a bad choice and grabbing for the bad choice because they're too arrogant or too greedy to pick the other one.
Yeah. I could see that one being on Bobby, but it's still just... It's like, you literally had to do nothing.
Yeah, they could have sat on it and it would have been fine. Because that was what people wanted it to be, so long as they didn't tamper with it. It's not just that all they had to do was not tamper with it. People signed up explicitly on the promise that it would not be tampered with.
And now you
That
got
was the whole point.
That was the
Yeah,
entire premise of it, yes.
Yeah, now they've got it going, and their usual incompetence doesn't help things either. All right. Oh, what's up, Red Wolf? Radagon? I met you already. I'm blowing through this. Oh man, that does so much damage to you. Poor doggo.
Poor doggo. Just kind of just shove him out of the way and keep going, aren't you?
No, he's gonna murder me because I have no magic resist.
Ah, I
So
see.
if I can't get out, that's all she wrote. He am fast booger,
Him is fast booger.
and I have 2 great swords. Fast is not what I would call myself.
Chonky, perhaps.
Not even. I hit 20 vigor, but at this point in the game, I would be more comfortable if I had like 30.
Yeah. Alright, in that case, that's pretty much it for the week, isn't it?
Yeah, we
There just hasn't been any real happenings. And what else is there to look forward to this year other than Sunbreak, to be honest?
Yeah, well, we've got Elden Ring now. Sunbreak's the next one I'm really interested in. I mean, we could go and play Tiny Tina's, except...
I'm not gonna
How
go
about
watch.
instead of that, no.
How about
I'm not gonna go watch the Love Child of the Birch's Spaz Fest.
Yeah, also they want $90 for it.
What? Oh,
90
Australia.
$90, yeah.
Australia bucks.
Australia bucks. So how about now, especially after the damp fish that was at Borderlands 3? Just
Tinks.
ech.
Never forget Tinks.
I did not play it. I have no intention of playing it. It doesn't look compelling, to be
If
quite
someone
honest.
gives it to me for free, I might play it. Maybe.
I did.
got
It
nothing
was
better to
garbage.
So, yeah, Borderlands 2 was great, though. Go play more Borderlands 2. So that game hasn't aged well with modern screen resolutions, actually, so it's kind of a bit janky. Takes a bit of fiddling to get it to look good.
Yeah. See if we can get Red Wolf down this time. Nope. Oh, this is not starting good.
Actually. Okay, so with that, let me... Gonna go fight Doggo again? Or is he gonna
Yeah,
just
let's see.
smack you into the floor again?
We're giving him the old college try, at least. Oh.
Ooh. I mean, this Doggo doesn't have a whole lot of health compared to a couple of the ones you get later on, but...
Well, 2 attacks was almost half of his health bar.
Yeah. That's considering you do stupid damage as well. Yeah, there's one in the city of Necron, or Necros, whatever it was. Nocros. He was a pain to fight. Not so much because he's an exceptionally angry doggo, because he was, but he comes with so many ads.
Yeah.
I got him.
There's another one out in the world somewhere that just is randomly wandering around with a pack of dogs. Are you stuck, my dude?
It looks like it. No, here he
They're doing
comes.
it.
Dodgy. Yeah, I think
dude.
there's, what, 3 of these guys around? 3, 4?
Something like that. Oh no.
Yeah,
that's
no,
not-
I found
that's
another
what I
one
meant.
elsewhere as well, and I just deleted him, so... I've encountered 3.
This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Bad. Bad.
Yeah. So admittedly, one of the big weaknesses of Elden Ring is they do tend to reuse bosses a bit.
There he goes.
There you go. Yeah, not the big bosses, but the smaller bosses will get reused here and there.
Yeah, there is a lot of copy paste,
Yeah.
but the game is so huge. I forgive the copy paste to a degree because even when they copy paste levels, they do something different with it every time.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like every single mini dungeon is exactly the same.
Yeah. So,
Put another
with that,
there.
I'm going to transition off, and let's wrap up.
Yep. All right, folks. Closing comments. I guess all I can say for email topic of the week is play some Elden Ring.
Yeah. You've got my character looking nice. I just need a good gun to go with it. Although, admittedly, they still haven't figured out exactly how to do a good machinist weapon in this game, because you still get the teeny weeny guns, and they look really silly.
So yeah. All righty. Is Vol still alive?
Yes, I'm still alive. Well, not for long. I think Margaret's going to kill me.
It sounds like a lie, yes.
Yeah. So I think we're done, folks. Yeah.
Yeah, we're done.
Hopefully we have more to talk about with you next week than Elden Ring, but it just doesn't seem like there's anything going on in Vidya.
No promises, yeah.
We'll see what happens. See you then. Sayonara. Bye-bye.
Phenomenal.